Welcome to Recovering from Religion Stories Australia. This is a podcast series where we conduct long-form interviews with people who have left religion to hear about their journey both in and out of religious belief. Recovering from Religion, or RFR, is a global non-profit organization that offers hope, healing, and support to those who've been harmed by religion. In this podcast series, we occasionally touch on highly sensitive topics, so listener discretion is advised. Also, any opinions or views expressed on the podcast are those of individuals and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoint of RFR in general. We hope you enjoy the program. Hello everyone, and greetings from Perth in Western Australia in the middle of the winter. Welcome back to another episode of RFR Stories. My name is Sean, one of your hosts, and today I'm joined by the lovely Sally Ann. How are you, Sally Ann?
I'm really well, thanks, Sean. And it's brilliant to be back after a little while.
Yes, wonderful to have you back. And today we are joined by two really special guests. We're very excited to hear their stories. Welcome, Travis and Annie.
Hello.
Thank you.
How are you two today?
Well, cold.
Yes.
Ooh.
But well.
That's
Really well.
Yep.
That's great. Well, both of you come from a Christadelphian background, and as per RFR Stories tradition, we would love to hear all about it. We have plenty of time here, and so I think a good place to start would be tell us a bit about the Christadelphian religion, because many of the people who follow the podcast may not know about it, and it's a relatively small group. So please proceed.
Who wants to start off?
So Christadelphian, it comes from the word Christ and Adelphos, which is Greek, meaning brethren in Christ. So that's what the name is. It started in America, and the founder, I suppose you can say, is Dr. John Thomas. So he was actually a medical doctor, and it was in the time of the Calvinistic era. And that's where it really started. And basically it is a fundamental religion that literally takes the Bible as a literal thing. So truth, yeah.
Absolute truth. God.
Yeah, divinely inspired by God, who's the omnipotent, omnipresent God and has Holy Spirit power. So it's non-Trinitarian, so we don't believe... They don't believe...
okay.
So the three in one. Yeah. So...
We still twitch.
Yeah. So God is one person and Jesus is God's son, and then there's the Holy Spirit power that is used as a tool to do miracles or create the world.
So they would see Jesus as being born at the time of his birth from Mary, and from that point, that's when he came into existence, which they then really get tumbled up on some of the stuff in John where you have the concept of the beginning of the world. And they say that that was just God's thoughts about Jesus.
Okay.
From the beginning of time, you thought he was going to come into existence, but then they say that Jesus is created or made when he was actually born. So yeah, it's quite different from most other. I don't think there's too many others that I know of that are non-Trinitarian.
Yes, I know that the Mormons are. They also believe the three distinct individual beings. I think the Jehovah's Witnesses might be too, by memory. So a couple of the religions back at that time were like, no, we don't want to throw out the Trinity. That's not doctrine from the Bible. As far as I know, it's not, right? No, that's great. Sorry, Travis, can you lean a bit closer to the mic?
Yeah.
So core belief, probably the main belief is something we've all heard about, is Jesus returning to the earth at the end times. So the end times seem to be going on for a long time. So I believe there's a lot of, one thing they haven't ever done really is say it's a date. Like I know some religions have said that. So they've never actually said it's going to be this date, it's going to be this date, but they will say, this is the time because Russia's coming down and Israel's this, etc. And that Jesus will return and establish the kingdom on earth. So one thing is that we don't believe, Christadelphians don't believe in going to heaven when you die.
Oh.
The body goes into the earth and it's like you're sleeping and it doesn't exist anymore, and then there'll be the resurrection.
Okay. Yeah.
And will you get a new
Mormon
body
doctrine.
or will it be the existing body when you're resurrected?
So you're raised as a whole body, However, that doesn't mean that you've got eternal life yet, because there's the judgment seat.
You're raised in a mortal state, like a non-dying state, I think was the expressions we used to use. So so you put back into your old body, in a sense, recreated in an undying state. Yeah. Then you go to the judgment seat, and then you're either accepted or not. If you're accepted, you become part of the army. You got to subdue all of the heathen who are still in the world living.
Of course.
Because you've got to create God's kingdom on this
earth.
world.
Yeah.
So you literally go out and slaughter people. And this is I think it's Psalm 146 or something. This is the honour of the saints to go forth and in battle.
So that's basically what will happen. And then the people who don't get accepted go back into the world and obviously get destroyed with the rest of the world, and then Jesus will be reigning on earth for 1,000 years, is it?
Initially 1,000 years.
And then it will be given back to God.
So in that 1,000 years, there's a mortal population, okay? And then they go through a second judgment at the end of the 1,000 years when the earth gets completely given back to God and everyone becomes part of God.
Okay.
And they built a temple, which is in Ezekiel, and you'll see Ezekiel like from about chapter 30 to 50 or something like that, and that's with the temple
In
Jerusalem. And so that's the other core belief, I would say, is very Israel-based.
Focused.
And focused, that Israel are God's people. They're the apple of his eye. And
Like a Zionist kind of.
yes, to a certain extent, although a Zionist is different from Zion. So you wouldn't believe implicitly that the people of Israel are perfect in every way, because it says in the Bible that only a third will be saved in Joel or one of those. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's an interesting crash course into the high-level beliefs and afterlife of the Christadelphian.
Yeah, so no demons. We also, the other big one, we don't believe
demons?
we don't believe in a supernatural. We see, I did it now. Trying so hard. They don't believe in a devil, a supernatural devil. Okay, so consider that the devil as presented in Scripture is yourself, is your human nature.
Yeah.
There's no externalized
being or
there's
Satan.
no
Thing on your
demons.
shoulder.
There are angels,
Fascinating.
absolutely, but there's no demons, there's no any of that whole stuff. There's no possessions. Also, they didn't believe in the Holy Spirit, as in the gifts of the Holy Spirit.
Right.
Present today.
Present today. They said, yes, they existed in that time following Jesus' death up until the time that the Bible was finished. Okay, when that was that, you didn't need the gifts of the Holy Spirit to convince people anymore. So the gifts disappeared. And so people, there's no healings, there's no speaking in tongues, there's no laying on of hands.
Definitely no screaming.
No screaming
In church.
people in churches and stuff
I
like
like the
that.
way you reference me when you talk about no screaming. I didn't do any of that. Just remind you, I didn't have any demons. It was just other people. It's just not me.
Yes.
I was special.
You were worthy.
Indeed, worthy.
Indeed.
That's the word.
Yeah.
Yes.
So no supernatural devil.
Along those lines too, the issue of hell, which is big in a lot of religions. So hell was just called the grave, and the Christadelphians don't believe in terrible things that go on in hell. So you didn't have a fear of hell. You just feared that Jesus would return at any time, and you hoped that you were doing
The right
thing.
know.
It was like surveillance. So in one sense, you've got a surveillance.
Right. So if you aren't worthy or following Jesus when you die, do you go into non-existence kind of thing?
You're still going to get raised up if you knew God. Okay, so if you were in the relationship with God, and that was a really grey area because people put that at baptism, but then they go, it's knowledge. That's how it would be knowledge. So you'd be raised up when Christ came back, but then you'd be judged unworthy, and then you'd be thrown out into the world.
And have to suffer.
And then suffer.
When
this is the
the
weeping and
soldiers-
gnashing of teeth.
Yes.
When the army of God comes down and weeping and gnashing. Some would last for, some would die quickly, others might suffer for a long time.
Wow.
That's a real point of difference, isn't it, from some other versions of Christianity, in that once you, from my perspective as a born-again Christian, once you, repent of your sins and ask Jesus into your heart, that's it. You have certainty after that, or reassurance that you are saved and you're going to heaven. Whereas this is, well, you're saved. Is that like you're saved because you've made a choice and
But then you're judged.
But then you're judged. You're
still
constantly being judged, aren't you?
You are. And yes, so it's the same with praying. So you pray, probably very similar to other people. You pray for forgiveness of sins, and you're always aware of the sin of ignorance, that you didn't know whether you'd sinned. So you prayed for that as well, whether you'd missed something. So the good and bad, like the focus on trying to do the right thing all the time and yet utterly failing, is a very interesting concept.
Yeah.
So the distinction, as Sally and point out that I'm getting clear here is that many Christian religions believe in that moment of being saved. From that moment onwards, you're just kind of doing your best to be a good person, doing the right things, but you are already saved, right? You know, you've saved by that grace of God, and that's that, right? But there are other religions. Mormonism strikes me as more similar to the Christadelphians in that belief that it's like, okay, you're saved by grace and action. And so you have to maintain your worthiness,
That's
the right things.
I've got
faith and works.
Faith and works.
Pray, and you know what? You won't actually know right till the final judgment.
That's correct.
Whether you were actually, whether you made it. So it's kind of like you're on the right track, or you hope you're on the right track at any given point in time. But the afterlife is not decided just yet. Your outcome is not decided. Wow.
And I think it's interesting. We'll come back to this numerous times. I think that there's a wide range of how far people interpret Scripture. So if we talk one of our good friends now, he go, no, you're saved. You are totally and utterly saved.
Yeah.
Yet Annie and I, Annie grew up in it, I didn't, but, you know, we lived in it for 30 years where you definitely did not have that feeling. You were in the club, in the to be saved bucket, but you had to make sure your works were good enough.
Yeah. Was your name written in the book of life?
Yes.
That's mentioned in Revelation. Would that be?
Which is super ironic, because then also you had the sin of ignorance that you spoke about, Annie, that you get to the end of the day and you go, I had a really, really good day. Oh, hang on, golly, I must have missed something. There's got to have been something that I've done that's been wrong that I've got to seek forgiveness for. So, constantly in that sense, you'd pray for the forgiveness of a sin and hope that would be blotted out of they presented it like a ledger book. Here's all the good deeds, here's all the bad deeds.
Yeah.
And
Very
hopefully
much.
you got more on the good side than the bad.
And you wouldn't even know. So that's what the ignorance is about.
Yes.
So you could have sinned and banked up on the bad side of the ledger.
Yeah.
But by the end of the day, you didn't actually really know. So it's
No.
almost like just covering yourself for whatever
Just in case.
you might have done that you didn't actually know was wrong, but you might have done it and not known about it.
That's basically, the main ones. And the end of times prophecies, which goes into Jesus returning, that is probably a really big one. And of course, it's quite topical at the moment, given what's happening in.
I'm sure many religions right now are reminding themselves of their beliefs about the end times right now.
Yes.
And quickly on that, just in short, they believed that Europe was going to be united under a Russian overlord. So all of Europe, but Britain was going to be standing apart. So Britain, the Commonwealth nations, and probably the US would be standing apart. So you had this King of the South, King of the North fight. Okay. So all of Russia, all of Europe was going to be under Russian control.
Yeah.
Russia was going to have this massive war beast that's going to move down into the Middle East and take over the Middle East, because they need oil, they need all this sort of stuff, which is all okay during the 80s and the 90s. So it sort of really doesn't play out now. And then at that point in time, when Russia is completely destroyed all of the Western powers, England, Commonwealth nations and the US.
US is not mentioned in the Bible.
It's not mentioned
so
specifically.
We never had that.
We used to sort of put it in there and say, well, it's got to be that. When Russia was completely dominant, that's when Christ would come back to the whole world after judging everyone, and then the army of God, or the saints that are being glorified, would absolutely decimate this Russian host. Like it would take
And then-
years to clean up the dead.
10 years, I think they said.
in Israel, like just bones and bodies and stuff everywhere.
That's taken from Ezekiel 38.
So that's
So
the basics.
Ezekiel 38 mentions Russia by name?
It doesn't.
I'm just kind of a little bit confused where all these prophecies come from the
yes.
Bible, but it's
So,
like
no,
Europe and Russia and
Yeah, pretty sure I didn't read anything about Russia.
So we used to do a lot of stuff. So this is going to take me back to my preaching days. Yeah, Gog of the land of Magog, the chief prince of Rosh, Meshech and Tubal. Okay, so we then take all of those place names and would build out this wonderful picture that Ross was Russia.
Okay.
Magog was the Germanic people. Tubal was Turkey.
That's not necessarily correct, but that's
the
how.
way we looked at it.
yeah.
Necessarily correct.
No. And
So
was this a prophecy, or was this actually written after the event of something that
Afterwards,
happened
yes.
at that time?
And I must admit, both Annie and I did chuckle when, this massive war machine of Russia couldn't even, and still can't even take over the Ukraine.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we did sort of chuckle a little bit
Interesting.
internally.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so no, thanks for that overview. I'm very fascinated. I'm sure after the interview we'll go into more depth about
I've got so many
little
questions.
nuances. Yeah, I have tons. Actually,
dear.
my one last question before we move on to your stories is tell us a bit more about the founder of the Christadelphian. 'Cause I'm fascinated
Over to
by
you,
these
Eddie.
religious founders because they're a unique cast of people,
Yeah.
aren't they? They have unique brains, and so tell
I
us.
think
And actually,
so.
there's something else we'll come back to, just the structure and the hierarchy.
Oh yeah,
as well.
sure. Yeah.
So I don't know a real lot about it. I did read the books that have been written about him. So his name is John Thomas and was a medical doctor, kind of, very interesting university degree. Yeah, and basically he did a lot of debating at the time. There was a lot of debating that went on with a lot of religious people in that Calvinistic times. And they would hold a lot of like lectures and talks at different places. So he was also worked in printing and ended up having his using a printing press, which was where he actually wrote some books. So one of his books, and you can read it, that is in a lot of libraries, called Elpis Israel, which is like the hope of Israel, which means, and it's quite a big book and it's quite difficult to go through. I never did actually read right through from beginning to end. And then he also wrote Eureka, which is, I found it, obviously, and it's a volume, it's like about 5 volumes. And it's very much about what,
Interpretation of Revelation.
and the prophecies and that sort of stuff. So, however, I'm just going to put a little thing on this, that he actually did take this from a lot of other people's works and didn't actually mention it. So a lot of his works, one of them is anastasis, which means being raised up, but that was actually pretty well taken word from someone else's book.
Okay.
And Eureka is just huge parts from...
Taken out. I can't remember the actual... Anyway, you can actually Google it and you'll be able to see it all, but yes.
So he came out of the Campbellism,
Yes.
Campbellites.
Yeah.
So he joined up. So he was in England, went over to America, was in a shipwreck, like the storm. If I'll serve God for the rest of my life.
Very
if I
much like the Apostle
survive.
Paul's storm in a ship.
Yep. The interesting thing with that is, with Google now and the internet, and he wasn't able to actually find the boat that he came out on, apparently. The only name of the boat was a boat that had existed years beforehand, but that's okay. Let's
He did
truth
get
get in
there.
the way of a good story.
Details.
Yep. So he then joined the Campbellites, came out of that, set up the Christadelphians.
One reason, actually, sorry, I should say, is that he introduced conscientious objection. So Christadelphians are conscientious objectors. And it was when the Civil War was going on, and he actually asked not to go to war, and based on religious things. So Christadelphians don't vote. They're not political. They will get a letter, and you have to write in a letter to say, I am a Christadelphian, therefore I don't have to
Don't
vote.
vote.
Okay.
And so you don't get
They get
fined.
exemption.
Yeah.
Get exemption.
Yes.
It happens.
Yes.
It happens.
Didn't realise
I've written it many times myself.
The first time we voted was
About 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Welcome to
It
democracy.
was like, it felt
It was-
so liberating to go in and go.
Oh, I was like, oh, how do you do this?
Now you just have to decide who to vote for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think that sort of goes back to then. And so since then, one of the very big things on particularly the very conservative Christadelphians is conscientious objection. And during the Second World War and the Vietnam War, there was a lot of people that in Australia that went to court,
Were in prison?
Yeah, they went to prison. And in South Africa, actually, there was a lot of them that went to prison for that.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
I'm sensing, I think we discussed this when we had dinner the other night, but this early 1800s sort of revival time
Yes.
has a bunch of these offshoot religions that are all sort of cousins of each other. And they have
Very
some
much.
similarities. So like everything you're telling me, I'm like, okay, this sounds a little bit like Jehovah's Witnesses, conscientious objection.
Yes.
I think Jehovah's Witnesses do too. I don't know if they call it that. But then the non-Trinitarian beliefs or the afterlife, it kind of has some similarities with
Yes.
Mormons, and then Jehovah's Witnesses have the whole
Kind of
Armageddon
SDAs.
and SDA. It's like these four cousin religions from that time, and they also
Yeah.
share some similarities. Methodists as well.
Yeah, initially. Yeah, very much.
So definitely the type of worship in Christadelphia so again, we've got this wide range. You've got very liberal, we used to call them ecclesias because we wouldn't want to use the word church because that would make us seem like all the other religions. So we use the word ecclesia, which is the Greek word used in the New Testament for being a group of called out people. So, we'd have ones that were very liberal. We'd have ones that were exceptionally conservative. So the type of worship was very Calvinistic. Hymns, you were not allowed rock groups. You would definitely not have any
organ or piano only.
So very serious. Yeah.
Absolutely. And very, very staid, wearing hats for women.
So head coverings, no pants. And I'm just going to put a caveat on that because...
That you'd wear something.
Yeah, you can walk around naked from the waist down.
Imagine that.
I pictured of a woman with a hat on.
But
because we went through the same sort of thing where girls and women were told that you need to wear skirts. And it was funny because back in the 80s, culottes became a thing where you could pretend you were wearing a skirt, but actually you weren't. But when the pastor of the church found out that women were sort of wearing culottes, we were told the culottes weren't allowed either.
Became on the
they are
restricted
actually pants.
Yep.
So not a real skirt.
Yes.
And the reason behind that is you're wearing a male's clothes.
How dare you?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm going to put a caveat because in the UK, US and across Europe, that was not the case.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you could wear...
So there weren't sort of uniform rules for everybody to follow. You had these overarching sort of
that's a good segue.
theology.
Yes.
So we had what they called the Birmingham. Okay, so he was in a debate as well. So we had a statement of faith. Okay, so John Thomas and his protege Robert Roberts, who was British, developed this statement of faith. So this was the thing that was going to bind Christadelphians together. They then had this massive debate about the nature of Jesus. Sounds like that happened about 1,000 years earlier in the church. But then they developed the Birmingham Amended Statement of Faith, so the BASF. So that's a statement of all of the doctrines, okay? That's the only thing that each individual group subscribes to. So each individual church or ecclesia is completely a separate entity, separately incorporated body. There is no overarching hierarchy.
Yeah, we don't have like a centre, an office.
Okay.
And occasionally, like we do in Australia, there is an organisation that represents Christadelphians to the government as a group, but membership of that committee is each of the churches can decide whether they want to or not.
Right.
Okay, so so each little church definitely developed its own flavour, its own feeling, depending upon who was there, how dominant they were or they weren't. We have some that will have, so every Sunday we would take the bread and the wine. There were some churches that wouldn't have wine. They would have a grape juice, whereas there were other ones that would have wine.
They were the better quality groups, were they?
More time than
good red wine.
So there was no hierarchy in that sense, but then there was a unwritten hierarchy where you had speakers who had a lot of influence, and that influence went over things. So there was an organisation called the Logos Publication, which was a printing press.
Still is a printing press in South Australia.
And the person who owned that and set it up was one of the big movers and shakers in Christadelphia for decades. And it was almost what he said went.
So his name was Perce Mansfield. Yep. And I really, from what he did, Adelaide, like South Australia, is the biggest group of Christadelphians in Australia.
Yep.
Yeah. And they would perhaps be were they at least 10, 15 years ago, like the hub. So whilst it wasn't an organisation as such in that hierarchical way.
That was the most
definitely.
And so you had these speakers that would crop up and they'd be influential for a period of time, and they'd do the circuit around. They'd go and speak at special efforts. They'd go to different ecclesias and around the country, overseas, and their word was almost sacred. They would interpret stuff. So the BASF was very much a theological document. There wasn't much around practice. Then each ecclesia or each church would have their own constitution. And that's where you would define what was in and what was out. So
what hymns? So even if it was a Christadelphian hymn book, some churches would say, or some ecclesias would say, we can't sing hymn 246, this, because we don't think that that's correct.
Doctrinally right.
Oh, really?
Yes, correct.
And who
Travis?
Well, for a while it was, absolutely, which I used to rebel about. So each ecclesia or each church was organised that there was an arranging body, which was only men.
Of course.
Like misogyny, women were not allowed to speak in the church.
Or serve.
Or serve.
Except for Sunday school teaching and cooking. playing the piano and doing supper and morning teas and cleaning.
So this arranging body was elected every year amongst the members, and they then decided upon. So when you were establishing a church, you would write the constitution, you'd write into it what you wanted, and then there'd be and that was more legal stuff, but then there was some practice stuff like when you're disfellowshipping people, allowing people to come in, that sort of stuff. And then there was a document that was like the practices, and that was often open for debate. Just shortly after I came in the early 90s, there was a massive debate about divorce and remarriage. Well, that was an absolute anathema. You were not allowed to get divorced. You were absolutely out if you got divorced. And if you got remarried, that was even worse.
You can imagine if you're in an abusive relationship, what that does to that.
And if you got remarried, you were living in consistent continual adultery. That was it. You were just, and we would not allow people in our meetings.
Yes, so you would actually had an interview to come, but if you wanted to change into a different church, whether it was because of location or it was better for your children, the better Sunday school or something, you had to go through an interview process.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's probably loosened up a bit nowadays. We're going back to the 90s.
Can I say, there's a church in Newcastle area, so there's about 9 in that area, different ones, and there's one that's just introduced recently in the last 6 months that if someone comes into their church as a speaker, because you get people from everywhere to speak. I presume it's similar at other places, I don't know, because we don't have a paid clergy, so people speak. So you have to sign a document to say that you don't subscribe to homosexuality. And the other one, I find it appalling, that one.
Homosexuality.
Specifically. The other thing is they've also said that sisters, that's a baptised woman, must wear a head covering.
Right. Okay.
So it's very important. So membership in Christadelphian was through baptism, and when we were baptised back in the
not baby baptism,
you actually sat an exam, not a written exam, but you were examined by 2 lots of people to see whether you knew the doctrines enough, whether you understood what was necessary, and then if you passed that, well, then you were baptised. Caveat
as well. Some areas, particularly across New South Wales, they actually did it in front of the whole church.
Right.
Oh, you're tested in front of the whole church. Okay.
Oh,
wow. This is all very fascinating.
Yeah,
I'm getting this image of a bit more, because we deal with a lot of more hierarchical religions that have a very explicit center, and I'm getting this more grassroots vibe from the Christadelphians, where it's a bit more entrepreneurial. You can start something up, you can get a congregation going, and it's not sort of dictated to you from the top.
And if you were charismatic, there would often be times where people would go out when they were clashing with the other members of the church or the ecclesia, and they would go off and set up their own ecclesia.
Yeah.
And if you were charismatic, you'd attract other people to it. And, in Perth we had 7?
No, we had about 10, I think, 11.
One stage.
I think
small. They might have literally 12 members. Some of them, others might be up to 150.
Right.
It's almost like a house church, which I suppose the denominations, some of the Christian denominations now, well, they always did do like house church, and that was usually people who just didn't like the other versions of the other groups out there and wanted to start their own thing and do it their own way. So,
basically.
Yeah.
You have debates or arguments against, someone gets a little bit of a bee in their bonnet about something.
Yeah.
And
ecclesia, right?
Yes.
It's very entrepreneurial.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
What would how many Christadelphians would there be in Australia today?
So there's 50,000 approximately across the world. And in Australia there's 9,000.
Yeah, something around that.
350 approximately.
Okay. Oh, it's small, isn't it?
Very small.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it is diminishing.
In Australia,
it's diminishing. Beg your pardon. UK, it's diminishing. US, it's diminishing. In Africa, it's flourishing.
Yeah.
The 5,000 of that 50 is in the African countries.
Oh, okay. So
because it's appealing.
Pentecostalism is really thriving there too. Yeah.
It's giving people something to believe in. Something this life is going to be better. You're going to have this glorious life. You're going to be part of God.
Yeah.
You're going to be immortal, live forever.
Also, we have a charity called Agape in Action. So agape is, or agape, some people say, but it's love, in Greek. So this is started by a Canadian couple who actually live in Newcastle now. And they actually started with like doing like water, like providing water wells and stuff like that sort of thing. So, and they've got schools and all sorts of stuff happening over in various parts of African countries. Yeah. So that's one way that they do preaching.
Yeah.
I see.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Through
meet
charitable
the
means.
practical needs of the population.
Which is great. I have no problem with that.
Yeah,
I just have questions about then if you have that, then the feeling of, you need to join this organisation and
the motivation behind that.
And so in Australia, we don't have any real charitable organisation. There's no soup kitchens. There's no looking after the poor and the needy. There's none of that.
outreach outside of Christadelphia.
Yeah.
In fact, we actually did Relay for Life. One of my friends here went through our school, lost their daughter Chloe 6 years ago from cancer, and she went through our Wesley College and that. And
Not a Christadelphian.
Not a Christadelphian, but like we would organise a Sunday school outing there, and it was like very much frowned there. But, to join and learn about other people and that things like that. We were very interested in, but it was frowned upon, and you got into arguments with that. And we've as a couple really pushed the boundaries of that relationship. So the concepts of the world, i.e., not Christadelphian, so terminology,
terminology-wise, was really intense. That these people were worldly, they were going to lead you astray, they were going to turn you into drug, sex addicts, all that sort of stuff.
It's the worst.
And that God's going
that you're going to become.
Yes, God's going to judge. I think it's very similar to maybe Jehovah's Witness. We called it the truth. So we had the truth and no one else has the truth.
Yes, we're very familiar with that.
There's going to be a lot of petitions in heaven, isn't there?
The truth. And what actually is the truth.
So that sort of associations was really frowned on when we were younger. And even in Australia, there's still they don't look after the homeless. They don't provide anything like that.
Individuals may, though.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm not saying that they're bad people.
Yeah.
Yes, I do want to say that there's a lot of really good people in there. Of course. But what happens is the interpretation of the Bible and the way then rules are created makes people do some pretty nasty, awful things. And I think they say that they're a Bible-based religion and that they study. And I would have to actually say I have never studied more than when I actually started looking into it. And now I study the Bible more than I ever have before and know so much more about the Bible. And I feel like back then as a Christadelphian, you do have just one view and you don't have an all-round view. You're only looking at one through one lens. And that's where I think the harm becomes really, yes. And because they're also very big on Sunday school and teaching Sunday school.
So teaching you early.
Very
when you're young, indoctrinating you when you're a young child. Yeah.
So that's a good segue into your stories, because I think we now have a good overview of the Christadelphian religion, but we're very keen to hear about your personal experiences in them. So I guess we could start with you, Annie, because you were raised Christadelphian.
I was.
And Travis wasn't. So let's start with you. Beginning.
All right. So I was born in 1968 and I had an older sister, and then I've got two younger sisters, and born to lovely mum and dad. I had, they were Christadelphian. My mum actually was born Christadelphian as well from her mum and dad, my nana and granddad, who I was very close with. My dad actually was not born as a Christadelphian. He had a very bad car accident when he was about 19, and his mum had recently heard about the Christadelphians, and she lived in Geraldton, which is like 5 hours north of here, and she had recently been baptised, and his uncle, and he ended up joining the Perth Christadelphians, and obviously later him and my mum were married. So she herself has two sisters and a brother who are also Christadelphian. So we have a lot of cousins. And
that makes you a third generation Christadelphian.
Yeah. Yes, I believe so. But I actually had a really, really good childhood. I have really lovely memories. It was a very wholesome childhood. We were rather wild. People used to say to my mum,
noisy.
Daughters, aren't you lucky? I think we were up the trees most of the time. But we really had a lot of people that used to stay with us. We had a lot of friends. However, with that, when we went to school, particularly, no after school finished, nothing to do with anyone. So no sport after school, which was I loved sport. No going to school camps, no going to religious studies. We got pulled out of that, or sex ed. Not allowed to do sex ed. No going to dances or discos or anything like that. And that was so that we weren't infected, I suppose, that we weren't.
You wouldn't want to be infected by fun.
No, these filthy people
because
in
they're
the world.
of the world. They're okay while you're at school, but after that, I loved learning. I was a very curious learner, and I really would have wanted to be a sport teacher. However, when I got to high school, and I can't remember it ever implicitly being said, but I didn't do year 11 and 12 because what happens is we all went to business college or became dental nurses, and we then became secretaries because that's what you did. So I did. I went to business college instead of going to uni, which is what I really wanted to. I was very compliant in that as well. I don't actually remember having arguments about anything like that.
It's just what happened, wasn't it?
It's what happened, and it's what you did because, However, I do remember hearing a big conversation about someone who'd come to see my dad, and he was encouraged not to go to university. And I used to wonder what these universities were, like you're very much shielded from that sort of thing.
So Annie's dad was also a member of the AB for 30 years. So within the AB, there was a recorder, and he was like the top dog within each of the meetings. So there's a recorder,
Correct.
assistant recorder, and a treasurer, and then there was 7 arranging brethren. So the recorder was the one that basically ran the meeting.
Yeah.
He was the one that organised stuff.
Like the
made sure
central
that-
person of each. Yeah.
And that position became a real position of authority, unwritten authority. Like there wasn't anything that said that.
As
All the
a
same.
community, you enable it, I believe.
So Annie's dad was a recorder for many, many years. Carry on, sorry.
Yeah, so my dad is a lovely person. He's very, very friendly. All of us as girls are very chatty. We love people, etc. So yeah, he's a very cordial type of person. But when it's in a religious sense, and that becomes all very serious.
Right.
Yeah, it's really interesting. So I really did have a really good childhood, though. There was no abuse in my childhood or anything like that, and we had lots of fun times. And like us as girls, my goodness, we had lots of fun and lots of trips away, lots of Bible schools. You went on Bible schools and camps, etc. As a child, that was great. When I had it later as a mum, it was a lot of work. We went to Sunday school every Sunday morning at 9 o'clock in the morning. Church was in at 11, and then you had lunch. You always had people over for lunch, or you went out for lunch. So you're always cooking
So very
early in the morning.
social, lots of food.
Yeah, so if you
Yes.
did lots of community, often like only once every 2 months-ish, depending, you would have one with everyone at the church. If there was a baptism, you all had lunch
together.
So together.
Yeah.
So probably very similar to what your religions were. Yeah, and then you had a lecture. You came back for a lecture on Sunday night, which was a public lecture as well. So that was 7 o'clock. Yeah, so Sunday was a really big day. And then on Wednesday night, there was a Bible class, which you went to. Friday night was Elpis Israel. You studied the Elpis Israel book, or you did youth group, depending on your age group, or junior Elpis Israel, or you know how you have that. And then Saturdays were often either hall cleaning, or you had a busy bee at the hall. You do have a choice, didn't you? But like the expectation was that very much becomes an in-group and an out-group thing. So you've
You had
got
to have
ones
a
who
very
are on
good
the
reason
fringes.
not to go to something.
Yeah, so you were marked. So the role is marked. So the role is marked.
Yes,
It's still marked.
they would keep a roll.
For all those activities.
Not Bible class,
Sunday
a lecture,
morning.
and the Sunday morning, yes.
Okay.
And the excuse was, we need it for conscientious objection to show that you're a valid member of the meeting.
That was the only
I used to
reason
rebel
why.
against that. I used to go, why are we doing this? Like, seriously, this is a free.
Yes.
Right.
It's a free choice to be a member. Why are we?
I love the way you've used that phrase a couple of times now. I rebelled against that.
Oh, we did.
Isn't that-
We pushed things. We look back on it now and go, wow, we did really push it, didn't we?
Yeah.
And pushed a lot of it.
Yeah.
I think one of my horrific things was that I used to always feel that there was lots of arguments going on with the arranging brethren, and they were always dealing with other people's lives, particularly around divorce and remarriage. Should this happen and should that? And I was always curious about why we were doing someone's personal life. Never went further than that, though. I never thought, but I thought that's really interesting. And I questioned my parents about this several times. Why did you, when someone left the church, why weren't you allowed to talk with them? Now, there's no policy about that, but you just didn't. And it's because they might lead you astray is basically the answer.
Right. So you had some questions there.
Yes, I did.
But as you said, they were just sort of questions you had which you didn't do much with.
No.
Were you a young child having these questions, or was that more in your, okay.
Yeah, so around probably about 10, 11, 12. Yeah, definitely.
Because there was also a meeting. So in Perth, there was, at this stage,
Another
there would have only
church.
been about 3 or 4 meetings. And there was one of them, Yokon.
Oh, no, it was about 5,
That the rest of the others had nothing to do with. Like, so at the end of each meeting, the recorder would get up and give the announcements as to what was going on in the other ecclesias, like, so-and-so is exhorting such and such. Yokon was never mentioned. So when I came in later on, I didn't even know the existence of this whole other meeting, because within Christadelphia, there's 2 big, broad categories. There's the shield or the logos. One's liberal, one's conservative. And Yokine was the shield, we were the logos, and you never talked. And I remember Annie saying to me, I used to ask my dad about it. Why is this?
Why aren't we going? Why don't we go to Yokine? Yeah.
Fascinating.
Oh,
So that's very
within the
muddied
same
now.
denomination.
It is still sort of in there, particularly in a different sort of grouping in America and Canada. But yeah.
And
So-
your
So
comment
going back
about lots
to-
of fights amongst the AB, it was constant.
Or if you weren't wearing a white shirt, because you wore suits and ties and that sort of stuff, and white shirt was
Men,
very much
for men.
for men. Beards, whether you had a beard or not. So beards were frowned on for quite a while. That's okay now.
Yeah.
My stepdad, when we came in, he was literally said, you have to shave your beard off, otherwise you can't get baptised.
Yes. Cut. If you had longer hair, cut your hair.
Quite similar to the Mormons, isn't it? You had to present in a particular
culturally,
way.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not officially, but culturally.
Yes, it's these unwritten rules. So we wore skirts, but not mini skirts. And a lot of people wouldn't wear sleeves, still not, wear stockings. And so when you go to church, it's all you get your best dress, and proper, wear your hat and that sort of stuff. Interestingly, though, that there's other people who do wear pants, or they do this, or they wear shorts and all that sort of stuff. So this becomes, or they have earrings, or they have this, or they wear makeup, or...
Yeah.
It's really, so I would say that judgment is probably one of my big things that I struggled with, and was one of the reasons why I probably led to my leaving, the way that your head was just in judgment mode all the time,
Yes.
because you're making sure,
How
Judging
exhausting.
others and judging yourself.
have my wearing the right clothes. So we've got this camp in an Easter time in South Australia called Glenlock, and it's in Mildura. It's on someone's big property on the flats of the river, Murray River. Oh, I don't know, whatever river it is anyway. It's a very big river. And people go over thousands, it's like this big, people come from everywhere, and there's houseboats and everything. So that everyone's got this classic thing. It's called the Glenlock skirt, which is a denim skirt to your knees, and everyone goes to your secondhand shop to go and get one for that, so that you have something to wear, because you're not allowed to wear pants. You're literally on the flats. There's no toilets or anything. It's all just like
There's
they bring in
portaloos and stuff.
Portaloos and that. It's literally camping in tents, and they all wear their stockings and their dresses. In fact, Travis, when he came, he goes, I feel like I'm in Amish territory.
Or Little House on the Prairie.
It's like...
Walking, you go.
But I knew it was fake for a majority of those people. So in day to day, they weren't doing that. And I started questioning stuff like that, going, that's ridiculous. Like, why can't you... What is wrong with that? Why is that wrong?
It never ceases to amaze me how hung up religions get about all sorts of little nonsense things.
The
Whether you pluck a
details.
guitar in the right way, or
Yes.
what exactly you wear, whether you have a beard.
So we weren't, as a male, I wasn't allowed to have jeans. Again, no one said you are not allowed to have it. But
Yes,
it's just like,
yes,
you
it's just-
don't do
So a
that.
denim
It's not-
skirt is okay,
It's okay, but not
jeans
denim
is not
jean. I think I got my first pair of jeans when I was like 40. Sorry,
Dave.
when I came in, I had a lot of that stuff. And I had this great Batman T-shirt, and you weren't allowed to have printed T-shirts. So I had to
No
throw that
printed
out.
T-shirts. Wow.
Yeah.
All that sort of stuff. And
I just
when
put
did
it
you
in
get when did you get your ears pierced? How old were you?
Oh, 50?
Oh, what a day.
I know. But, you know, do you know, it's really funny. I don't know what you think. But when you're in there, because you're all kind of the same, it doesn't worry you that other people do it, but you just know it's wrong. You don't actually go, why is that wrong? You know, you shouldn't pierce your skin and that. Hang on, why not? Because it says for them to be a servant, to put it all in your ear and in the Bible, you know, one of the things. Thinking, that doesn't make sense then. Why is that? You know, like, so you have these...
Interpretation.
You have all of these ways of rationalising what you've been either told or what's implied that is right and wrong. Yeah. And it comes down to all the little details. And there's this sense of you've got to find a position. You've got to hold a position that fits with the group. With the group, it's Absolutely. Very much. And I think I hear that from a lot of people who have actually left, they're ex-Christadelphians. Friendship can be really difficult to manoeuvre through. I've been really lucky. I have really good friends and I really value my friendships. A lot of people have found finding friends hard. And one of the reasons is because when you're in a group, you're in your Sunday school group or whatever, you don't really see people outside of that much, not really at school, but then that's at school. So your friendships are based upon the people who are there, and whether they are people who you would normally have a friendship with or not, you're forced together. And one thing was we were always told you've got to include everyone, you've got to make everyone feel they're okay. So you're always worried about everyone being included. I guess in one sense you actually don't know how to be a friend because you're just... You don't learn those skills, do you? Yeah.
You're sort of like forced together and then actually you're going, I don't even really like what they do. But yes, I have to do it because they are in the truth and so they're going to be probably in the kingdom with us and we all have to get on in the kingdom.
Of course. Yeah.
Do you get that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, very much so. I'm curious about your teenage years. What were they like for you? Because that's often a time, isn't it, when young people start rebelling, questioning, pushing back on some of the rules and the boundaries that are there. Was that?
I don't think I did. I don't think. One thing about our family, we were pretty open and very chatty, and you know.
Well, open about something. Other things you would never talk about.
No, that's correct. Sorry. Okay. We were open as kids and, we had a very happy family in that and we had all these extended families and cousins and that. However, before I go on, I'll give you one thing that I really hated. It's called the Bible readings. So Robert Roberts, who's one of the founding people as well, he wrote this little tiny book called The Commandments of Christ. And in the back of the Commandments of Christ, he also did a schedule of reading the Bible. So he created his own Commandments of Christ. There's 100 of them and they're in practical ways that you can live. And they're just a mishmash of quotes, so they don't actually correlate properly. They're taken out of context and that. However, then at the back of that, there's a schedule of readings, and you do 3 Bible readings a day, 2 in the Old Testament and 1 in the New. So you start at Genesis, Psalms, and Matthew on January the 1st. And of course, everyone around the world is doing it all, so you feel like you're all together.
Verses, and so over the year, you cover the whole Bible.
Every night or every morning you do. Well, actually, we weren't so good at doing it, but like sitting through the Bible readings,
in the evenings, so often
boring.
So boring, and like so.
How long would you be?
Half an hour.
Oh, gosh.
And the thing is, it was like doing the same sort of things, and you're just listening to your dad or whoever else was there.
On and on.
You have visitors over, and you have dinner, and then you have the Bible readings. That's what you do.
Yeah. Sundays, after being in church all morning, you then go for lunch, sit down, have that, and then you go and do the Bible readings. And some would actually do all 3 readings. It might take an hour and a half.
And as a child, all you want to do is go and
bounce around.
Yeah, and you have to sit quietly and then or answer the questions correctly. So some people in the church where I was, one of my sisters hated going to their house because to get off from the table, you had to answer a Bible question.
Like, who's the 3rd king in Israel?
Yeah, like the king of Judah or...
any less relevant information to your life.
Absolutely. So that sort of stuff was quite stressful, like getting things right and making sure you knew everything.
Wow, yes.
So teenage years, so we went to a lot of youth conferences. So there's different youth conferences across the globe. There's different camps that you went on, youth camps and all that sort of stuff. So we did a lot of that sort of stuff, which are all fun in their way, you know. And they're all Bible-based. So, so I did a lot of that. Never have smoked in my life, never taken drugs, never drank. So drinking is very different now, but drinking was not, like alcohol, it's big no-no. And
I didn't drink for
no one had
20 years.
No one had would smoke, or if they did, you wouldn't know about it, sort of thing, and drugs and all that. So whatever you did like that, it had to be done in secret. You don't do it as a group.
Yes, right, yeah. No, I think we have a good picture of the very Christian, I want to use the word clean childhood, but that's just a legacy from the way I used to think about it. What's a better word? Conservative.
Yeah. I mean, it's so mixed for me because I did really enjoy it a lot, and we had so many people, looked after people, had people living, but
Sounds like it had many wonderful aspects to it too.
Yeah, it does, and community aspects are great. However, as you get older, you realise that actually these are very harmful for a lot of people, and you live in a void. You live in this little, very small space. And so my picture of the world was that God made it in 6 days, literally. Yeah. And I found that all very difficult to try and understand that. But then you go, in the kingdom, we'll know everything. So any questions that I had...
It's just because you're human and
God's ways are greater than our ways.
You're infinite. You're finite.
Yes.
And God is infinite. I always get those mixed up. I have to really think about that one. That was one of my ways of sort of, making sense of, oh, look, I just have this finite mind. I just have this human mind that is so limited. And, I'm trying to understand God.
Yes.
With my mind, which I'm never going to be able to do. So I'm never going to understand until I'm in eternity and in heaven. Yes. And I think that's a great catch-all.
It's a catch-all. I think that's a good word.
Anything you don't understand, it's just because I've got a human mind. God's so much bigger and greater and limitless.
His thoughts are higher than your thoughts.
Yeah.
His ways are higher than your ways.
And he knows the beginning from the end.
That's right.
He has the big picture. We just have this little kind of, experience that we're living in now, which is not reality.
It's not reality.
That's what, is that the same?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
I think, I just know that when I got baptised, I just did it really because my friends were getting baptised. So I got baptised at 18, which was probably slightly older than some of them. You don't want to go too into your 20s because, So I know that I did it because I knew it was the right thing to do, and because if I didn't do it, I couldn't think of not doing that. Mm-hmm. It would, no. I mean, living another way would not be.
You have to get baptised as an adult? You think you made reference to that, to become a member of the church? Okay.
Yeah, and then you can't do, you can't play the organ, or you can't do the read, like for men reading, and be a doorman or be part of the
community.
You can't serve.
You can't serve.
And if you're not baptised, there was so much, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You're not being a proper person.
Shamed and gossiped about.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that even happens today when people might be coming along, grown up, and they're just not baptised. One of our close friends.
What's going on with her?
Or with him. Why isn't he baptised? What's wrong with him? Doesn't he realise this is God's truth?
Yeah.
So can I just say this is very different from, say, my youngest daughter, who at 13 said, I totally disagree with blood sacrifices. This is absolutely disgusting. And she never did subscribe to it, even though she did get baptised. And she told them that. And she also would say, she'd go, Solomon, he is the most disgusting man. How can you say that he is righteous? Because look what he's done. That is so bad. And so she started helping us with this of going, reading it with a very open mind, not trying to forgive them for it or whatever. And how can you say that David is the most beloved of God? Look what he did. Look what he did to other women, and then look what he did to the foxes. Look what he did to this, and look what he did to that, and look what the people he killed. What would we think of a man like that? And so, and we allowed all this conversation. Obviously, we were very, but I really do attribute a lot to my children for helping me open my mind up to thinking things.
Sure. Let's get to that in the chronology. I want to now turn over to Travis and us. So Travis, you weren't raised Christadelphian.
No.
Right?
No. So I was in Sydney. So I was born in Sydney. My dad, I don't have many recollections of my father. Mum was always religious, okay? And a lot of this, so, I'll put it out there, I actually don't have any memories from up until about I was 10, like virtually nothing. I've got a handful of memories up until about 14, and then my memories started from when I went down to boarding school in year 9. So a lot of this is pieced together from what people have told me. We lived in Sydney. Mum was attending a house church, which ironically we found out later on was an ex-Christadelphian. So she was being taught all of the Christadelphian doctrines. We then moved out to Parkes, New South Wales, so central New South Wales, 8 hours out of Sydney. I was brought up with this implicit belief that there is a God and that God's Bible is true. Okay, it's his word. And again, that concept of I'm finite. If I don't understand the Bible, that's on me. I need to work it out. I need to keep looking at it and find it because that's true. Absolutely. That fundamental to my belief of my whole life. Went through, so Dad was not religious at all. I've got an older brother who was not religious and never has been. I just had this burning desire that I needed to find out what God wanted for me in this world. Went down to Sydney, did my high schooling in Sydney as a boarder, loved that, and that's where my memories really start from. Left and came over to Perth. So up until I was 18, that's when I was baptised. It was a very typical sort of an upbringing, I think.
I was going to say you came to Perth because your mum and dad divorced.
That's right. My parents got divorced when I went down.
And your mum came
when I went down to Sydney. My brother gone a couple of years before me. Parents got divorced. Mum moved over to Perth. I had sided with Mum in that debate, and so I came over to Perth. So I was in a rock group. I would drink. Never did drugs. Never have done. Once I have. Say that on there, should we? I had a brownie. I had a brownie at one stage and went, yeah, okay. So let's move on. But you never drunk, never smoked. My father was a heavy smoker, and I'm repelled and revolted by smoking. So never smoked. Drank way too much when I was at school and stuff like that. But yeah, so sort of typical life. In a rock group. Came into the truth when Mum discovered some literature from Christadelphians that she had lugged around for like 10 years. Okay. And that was like the hook because Mum had never believed in a supernatural devil. So that was the thing. And so we're reading this material. These guys don't believe in a supernatural devil as well. Okay. So started coming along and then got heavily involved in Christadelphia.
At what age?
This was 18. So I literally finished school, came over. This was 1988. I think I was baptised. So I came into the church in 1988, which was the big 40 years since Israel was in the land. This generation shall not pass. Like the end days stuff was just intense. In 1989, they also went, whoops. Must be the next, when Jerusalem was taken. So, so I came in at that stage and got so involved.
So you got baptised really quickly then?
Yes, about 6 months.
Wow.
So we came along. And to get baptised, you would go every single week to a person's house. So I went to and his dad's place, and they would instruct you. It was literally almost there was publications about what you needed to learn. And you'd go through this very regimented explanation of the Bible.
Like who is God?
To make sure you really understood what you were committing to.
The promises to Abraham, the promises to Adam and Eve, the promises to David, all of that.
Very theoretical.
Yes.
I used to say, I'm a Bible student. Wow.
No.
Like with you, Annie. I now
We
look
were
at it and
not.
go, we were not. We were within, so Christadelphians have their own publication. You were not, when I first came in, you were not encouraged to read outside of Christadelphia.
Yes.
Okay. So and this was something that I went, wow, it blew me away because, this Percy Mansfield that Annie mentioned earlier, he would churn out this material and do verse by verse notes on everything. Anyway, one time I got this book called Barnes's Expository Dictionary, which is outside Christadelphia. So I sort of kept that one out of didn't put that in the shelf. And I was reading it about some bit, I think I was looking at John, 1 John. And then I picked up the Expositor, which was the verse by verse notes by this Percy Mansfield, the Christadelphian approved stuff. And I went, this is exactly the same. Like word for word from the Barnes.
Plagiarism.
Like completely. I went, this is exactly the same. And I just went.
And then we followed and looked in so much plagiarism.
Okay.
Like just.
And no reference to those people.
Barnes, it was just
cut and paste.
It was cut and paste because in those days there wasn't the internet. People don't realise that existed these days, but there wasn't.
So nobody
internet.
could really go and check.
No one could.
That's right. Yeah.
So and these guys had their own printing press. They would print the books. distributed amongst Christadelphia.
No
and you had to buy
accountability.
It was just like I was probably in my 30s when I saw this. I was just like gobsmacked.
Okay.
Never picked up another expositor
Nope,
since
we got
then.
rid of them all.
Just got rid of them, and I started looking, and that's probably where I started looking at what other people, other expositors were talking about and stuff like that.
Okay.
But yeah, so I came in, baptised within 6 months. My mum and my stepdad came in at the same time, and then I just absolutely threw myself into it. Like I was studying.
You already also had a community. So for them, it was like
Of course, a
A
Reading
community, yes.
community. Yeah.
And I always wanted to belong to something, and I never found that before I found the Christadelphians. And yet, when I think back on it now, I never really even belonged to Christadelphians because I wasn't born and bred.
You're
I
a
was the-
convert.
convert.
I was a convert.
Did you-
I was.
Did you have that?
Yeah.
Were
There's
you
always-
treated differently because you were a convert?
Not really, but you felt no, you weren't treated differently.
No, I don't believe you are.
No,
yeah.
no. But as for me, when I look back on it, you felt excluded because often they would talk about stuff that happened when they were at
course.
Sunday school
Yeah.
growing up.
And they've all known each
And
other.
I'm
I mean,
hopeless
I
at
know a lot of
remembering.
people around the world because you've gone to so many
Of course, yeah.
things.
Knew none
Yeah.
of this. Like I didn't know the connections. And one funny thing, Annie used to go to Adelaide quite a lot. Okay, and she would. We would never go to the movies. Okay,
Oh,
You
no.
would, like
We didn't have TV.
We didn't have a TV.
Right,
Up
okay.
until 2000, the Beijing Olympics is when we first got a TV.
Oh my goodness.
So it's 2000.
So I never had one when I was
remember
young.
whatever. So we wouldn't go to the cinema, wouldn't do that. I'm a Lord of the Rings nut. When Lord of the Rings came out,
Yeah.
I didn't go to it, didn't see it because that was wrong, that was worldly, that was hard.
That must have been tough.
It
yeah.
was tough. It was really tough.
Yeah.
Anyway, he would go to Adelaide when I was sort of trying to chat her up, and I'd go around for dinner after she got back, and she just kept saying, "Oh, went round to the pictures the other night." I'm sitting there going, "What? You went to the pictures? What's going? Yeah, old-fashioned word for the movies." Didn't say anything because you didn't want to look like you're an idiot. Then I found out there was a family called their surname is the Pictures. So Annie would go around, and I'm sitting there going, "What is this place?
Why is
She's
that?
going to the movies when she's in Adelaide. I'm not allowed to go to that here."
Their
Yeah.
surname was the
Pictures. Yeah, the
Yeah,
picture.
as in
And
But it
she would say,
sounded-
"I'll go around
yeah.
the pictures." I'm going, "Okay, full."
Yeah.
Anyway, it was just a funny thing. It was quite interesting. So yeah, so I threw myself in, like absolutely threw myself into it. Every single night I was studying. I was getting involved in stuff. No paid ministry. It was expected of men that you started to become speakers, that you would start off with, and there was a real grooming program. You'd start off with a short talk on a Wednesday night. You'd have older brethren come up and say, "Yes, that was good, that was bad, it's right, you did this wrong." You'd then do short talks, and then you would expand out. And absolutely threw myself into it. Big time.
Coached to become a brother in the church.
Absolutely.
Yes,
And it was
basically.
expected. It was expected that every brother did it. And this
which
is
is really
an argument I had ages
Yes.
later when I was on Arranging Brethren, is to say, why are we asking this person to speak? He doesn't like it.
Right.
He doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
He's
Good at
happy
that.
being a
Yeah.
doorman. Oh, no, they've got to speak because I'm...
Yes, it's like, and I think feels like it's a good thing, isn't it, to include people, but actually we're not really respecting people.
Right. So you threw yourself into that, and that's a huge chunk of your adulthood is that slogan, right? I threw myself fully into this religion.
Our lives, isn't it, Annie?
Yes.
We threw ourselves into everything. We were so... When I finally talked Annie into liking me, which took a while,
And how old were you when
Yes.
you were getting together?
So I'd gone over to Europe. I'd gone to Bible school in Germany and then gone to Israel with a group of people and done a bit of travelling and came back. And it was after that. So I was about 22.
yep, I would have been... So Annie's a year older than me. She's
21.
a cradle snatcher.
I'm one of those too.
He looks older than me though, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm the haggard one. That's it.
It's because you had to do all these things in the
Yeah.
church that you didn't want to do.
No, I wanted to. That was the thing. That's the
So you
embarrassing
really
thing now. I
embraced it.
think I'm intelligent, but I am.
Also, I think there's an expectation of that and you're wanting to change things for the better all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're ideas people. We're very creative.
Particularly Annie is.
And
she's
we
constantly
did
thinking of
like
ideas.
we did a lot of like worship nights and praise nights, very much big in the in that. And I'm really big on education. So we sent our children to private school because we're big on education. And so I'm very thankful for that because they got a really good education and were able to
develop friends outside.
Develop independence and that sort of stuff. So we actually had that and we were very big believers of that.
Yeah.
But we're jumping forward a bit.
Yeah. Sorry.
So I think when we came together as a group, as a couple, we were in an ecclesia at the time that was very conservative, exceptionally conservative.
Right.
Perth?
Yeah, Osmond Park was, and we were busy. And he is an amazing pianist and would play often. Would play often. Wednesday nights, Sundays, and stuff like that. I threw away my rock group. Cut that completely off. Cut off any associations I had with anyone when I came into.
Yeah.
Christadelphia.
Sold all your instruments.
Sold all my stuff. It's the biggest regret that I have. I loved my music. It was so big in my life, and I did not do anything for 30 years trying to get back to it now. And it's because I thought that was the right thing. I thought that's what God wanted me to do.
That's what God wants you to do.
Yes.
God wants me to do that. So, so then we got involved. I became, got onto the AB, hated doing that.
So I said, never is my husband going to be on the AB. But as I had grown up with a dad on there all the time, and I just went, do not.
But then it was expected of you. And also because we're both phenomenally capable people. We would organise all sorts of stuff. We would organise Bible camps. We would organise youth group.
Hosts of youth group, you go along.
So you're obvious leaders.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you wanted to make a positive contribution.
Yeah,
you did.
The way that you understood how to do that.
Absolutely. When we got married, when was it, 91 we were married?
Yes, I can't even
remember. So that would make me...
Yes, I do remember getting married. We got married.
It's good that you remember.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't allowed to wear a bow tie, which really peed me off.
Who didn't let you?
You might need to blurt that one out.
No, not me.
No, your father said, her dad said to me, because I said I want to have tails. That's what I wanted. I wanted even a top hat sort of thing. I wanted, and he said, no, you can't do that.
No,
it's got to be a straight suit and a tie. Can't I have a bow tie?
Anyway.
All right, fair enough. And again, I would go, well, this man knows more about the Bible than me.
Yep.
I'll just go along with it. It's like when my stepfather was said to shave off his beard. These people know more than us. So
And the thing is, they don't. And the thing is, that's the whole thing about it. And it's such an interesting social construct in a group, isn't it, where you actually enable someone else to be more this or more that. And I don't know about what happened in your religions, but we had people would go into flavours and go, this brother, he's the best at the moment. He'd be going everywhere, and you put him on a pedestal sort of thing, didn't it? Yeah.
In fashion at the moment, in vogue.
Not in fashion, in speaking.
Yes.
It was almost like they were divine. So we, as Christadelphians, they don't believe in subsequent any divine revelation. Okay, so there's no Ellen Whites, there's no
God speaking
guy,
to
Joseph Smith's. It's just only the Bible.
only through the Bible.
Only the Bible. But the reality is, and this is this other layer, you hung off the words of these people.
Right.
What they said, they can expound the word of God.
And they were taped, CD.
So they have
recorded
an ability to understand it in a deeper, more meaningful way.
Yeah. And able to
studied
portray
it. They've spent
So they are
hours in the...
perceived as an authority figure.
Yeah,
in
that's
the
it.
movement.
It's the authority. And there's the compliance to the authority, isn't there? Then?
compliance.
Absolutely.
Yep,
compliance is a good word.
You don't want to rock the boat because you literally do get hauled up. We did a lot.
Okay. Sounds
Everybody
like you
knows.
were troublemakers.
Yeah.
We were.
Everybody-
Absolutely,
yeah.
we were troublemakers, weren't we?
Well,
we were troublemakers within... Like we would push stuff. We would push boundaries. I started doing triathlons, which meant the first triathlon I did, I chose the only one that was on a Saturday, and that's the only one I would allow myself to go to. When I did it, which is a half Ironman, when I did that, I went, this is just great. Then I started going on Sundays, and I copped so much flack. I remember my mum ripping into me one time about that. How dare you go on a Sunday?
Wow.
Because they weren't putting God first.
Correct.
Yeah.
I had this massive conflict within me. Is this right? Am I allowed to do this? Am I displeasing God?
We used to go and do, the 5K runs the girls did because they were big into sport. early on a Sunday morning and then come to Sunday school. And so we ran the Sunday school. But when we ran the Sunday school, so Christadelphians have two different notes. There's one that comes out of the UK and there's one that comes out of Adelaide. And it's a Christadelphian Sunday School Association. And so it's a 5 books that are done in like sort of junior, intermediate, senior sort of like level. And they're a series of 25 lessons that are done, and you do it every year. You have a Sunday school year. So every Sunday you come and you go and you do that.
The
And there's an
same
exam.
No, so the 5 books are one
sorry.
for each year.
But you goes
And you do the whole
so
Bible.
everybody goes through all of the same material as a child.
Yes.
You
They're
do the stage one.
Staged, yeah.
So stage 1 is like from Genesis to, Exodus. And then
Yeah.
stage 2 is like the Kings or something. And stage 3 is, that was the Judges and Joshua. And then stage 3 is the Kings. And there's 4 is Jesus. And then 5 is like the Apostle Paul and that sort of stuff. You learn over 5 years, you do
You've
Kids go
covered all
through
of
it.
that.
kind of, yes.
Yeah.
And they're done. You literally did it. And you did an exam at the end. There was a project. There was all this stuff. Then you had prize giving, and it's
it's a really big deal.
Yes, it's a big deal. We would start doing things like there was a little boy that got leukemia in Sydney, and we would raise money for him and do these other out sort of things. Or we got rid of sort of doing projects or gave them a choice. You don't have to do projects. Like that's fine. You don't. So, that sort of went and brought in more value-based education within that sphere. So yes, we definitely did in a Christadelphian sense, butt heads with that sort of stuff. Yeah. But trying to make it relatable to what the world they're living in is.
So what were you both doing? So I guess maybe we can see it maybe in your 20s. You got married.
Early 20s.
Early mid-20s.
Yep.
And are you
Which is
both
young.
working at this point? Okay.
Yes, I was a secretary.
Yes.
Very proper. Very
I was in Western Power. Yeah, I actually had a really good job and worked in industrial relations and that sort of stuff. Yeah, really enjoyed it actually.
So I'd come over, wanted to do architecture, but then my marks didn't get transferred from the eastern states, so I didn't get a place at uni, went out to work, and then later on I went back to study accounting. That's why I got into accounting. But anyway, and I can still remember to this day when one of the senior brethren came up when he heard I was going to go to uni. And this would have been in mid-80s. And he pulled me aside. I said, Travis, I'm really worried about you going to university because it's going to lead you astray.
Yeah.
I'm doing
It's accounting.
I'm doing accounting. Couldn't that be any more boring?
Yes.
All those communists, all those, those socialists that are in the university system, those libertarians, like we weren't allowed to be members of the trade union. You weren't allowed to have anything to do with people outside of work. We didn't go to Christmas parties.
So
didn't go
we
out for dinner.
Christmas and Easter
So
are not.
isolated.
Well, we weren't. I mean, I think now most people actually do celebrate
Yes.
Christmas as a traditional thing. I'm not saying the meaning behind it, but yeah. They do, but definitely in where we were, no. Birthdays, yes. So different to some
Sure.
things.
So I went on, got my degree part-time. We were working
Full-time.
full-time, doing a degree part-time.
I also taught piano from home as well.
Wow. So
Yeah.
very busy 20s. And I assume you had,
Phenomenally
very
busy.
familiar for me. And you had kids at what age?
I was 28 when we had Steph.
Steph, 95 we had
I
Steph.
guess that's quite old for Christadelphians because
Right.
they really pushed them at 18, 19, 20. It's so young.
Right.
It's really so young.
Yes.
To be honest, we were actually told that we couldn't have children because I had endometriosis and we were fine with that. No, I hadn't really, it just didn't happen. Didn't worry us at all
Like,
in that way.
For a lot of Christadelphian women, there is a huge amount of pressure on them to have children.
Yes,
Again,
and that's the right thing to do, to be fruitful and multiply.
full of children.
Okay, so encouraged to have lots of kids?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and some people do. Yeah.
This is all sounding very familiar to me.
Yeah.
So you had your first kid at 28. And how
Yep.
many do you have?
2.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
and then
24.
Alex came like 3 years later, 4 years
Yep,
later.
98. Alex is
2
right.
girls.
Maybe, 2
Right.
girls.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
And we
you
both
raised-
wanted to be boys.
I did. I'm from a
Absolutely.
family of 4 girls, and I was like, oh, let's have boys.
The amount of time that Alex would go, because they both had endometriosis.
Yeah,
And
I know.
Alex, when she was screaming in agony, this is all your fault, Dad. Yeah, okay, sorry.
Because
Okay. It is my fault. I'm the man. I decided what sex you I want to be a boy.
That was enough. Like, I think one of the big regrets I have about being religious with children is that we were doing so much. We literally had people living with us. We helped people who were on drugs that would live with us. You're always helping because you're encouraged to be that person.
You're serving.
That's
Serving
right,
all the
and
time,
put
every
others
day.
first. So it really actually made me sick in the end. My immune system fell apart some years later, didn't it? It's like big collapse. But you just keep going, don't you? Because it is an expectation, and it becomes also that you're scared of being judged if you don't go. But I did when taking babies to Wednesday night classes out in the night. I in the end just went, is not happening with us. Sorry, I'm changing that.
Which is probably the start of that rebellion.
And I'm not forcing my child to
asserting
sleep
your
in the meeting
boundaries
if they
and
don't,
needs.
had to sleep in the meeting. So I'm going to tell you one thing that some people, and some of them still do, they put blindfolds over their children during church so that they sleep.
So you walk in the back. At the back of the hall, there was a section for the parents.
cry room.
There was even divided, literally glassed off.
Was that for the parents or for the mothers?
For the parents. But
Then you had another room for feeding.
then you would put a rug down in front of you, and your children would sit on the rug. And we're talking like little toddlers, whatever, 3 or 4. And then they would be expected to lie down and go to sleep. Okay.
Not say a word.
And some people would put blindfolds over their things. They would put a hanky over their child's eyes.
So that they wouldn't see.
Dark.
The child was squirming and stuff. They would literally.
So we had some that brought in a wooden spoon and would smack their child all the time, every time they moved on the mat.
And then there was this kid was squirming. He picked this kid up and he picks up wooden spoon, puts it under his arm, and out he takes it outside to belt living daylights out of it.
So I don't know. You probably heard there's some books that not Christadelphian that have come out, and they're still available today, and they're about how to bring up your child.
They're still encouraging.
Yes, it's about, and one of the things they're doing there is mat training. So getting your child to learn how to be on a mat and not get off the mat because you're at church.
Okay. So it's not in Christadelphia.
Yes, but a lot of them subscribe to that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay.
So the child's needs aren't taken into account. The natural playfulness of children and exploring their environment. No, just discipline all the way.
So you're telling your child at home to talk, and then at church, which they can. Yes.
And
I regret having to bring up your child in such a busy environment that there's sometimes I actually don't remember fully what we did because you're just trying to pack so much in.
Yes.
Having to cook for supper or this and that. And I think the other thing was I literally despise cooking because we were always having to make so much food. And I hated it.
Constantly entertaining.
Yes.
People were constantly coming to your home.
Yes, or you had to take it to an event. I literally, I really did hate it. Travis does all the cooking now.
I didn't cook. Literally, I did not cook until...
Except for eggs and toast and stuff.
Until literally the last 3 years where I've now taken over all the cooking. And I love it. It's just, I feel like I'm a teenager. I'm one of my friends at work says, "You're about 20, Travis." I go, yeah. This whole world I never even didn't know
you missed out on.
I'm now. So when I get home before because she does Pilates each night, and so I'll cook, and I'm loving it doing it now. But I would not. I don't know how she did it. Seriously.
I mean, he was always very much part of bringing up children. Did everything we do in our house. We believed everyone does everything, and actually, my dad was like that, which was quite different for those days. My dad was up there doing the dishes every day, doing everything for us, and
that generation that was unusual.
Yes,
and
I think
a lot of Christadelphian men would not do that. Your wife to look after everything.
He was very amazing like that, and I didn't realise that until later how different he was. Maybe because his dad actually died when he was 7, and he had to go to work when he was 7 as well after school and cook dinner with his brother every night of the week for Nana because she had to work. Yeah. So you go, wow, that's actually amazing.
Yeah, it is.
Hope you're enjoying Recovering from Religion Stories Australia. We'll be right back after a word from the founder of RFR Australia, sharing who we are, what we do, the resources we offer, and how you can be part of it.
Hi, I'm Sherry D'Souza, International Board Member and founder of the Australian-New Zealand Recovering from Religion, and I want to take a moment to tell you about the vital work that we do. Recovering from Religion Australia is dedicated to supporting individuals who are transitioning away from religious belief. We understand that this journey can be both empowering and challenging, and we're here to provide compassionate support and resources every step of the way. We offer a range of resources to assist you. Our website is a valuable hub where you can find information and access to our services. For immediate assistance, we have a confidential web chat feature and a dedicated phone line. Details of that are in the description below. In addition to these resources, we offer both in-person and virtual support groups where you can connect with others who understand your experiences. What I'm particularly proud of is our women's support group, which provides a safe and supportive space specifically for women navigating this transition. To join any of our support groups, including the women's group, please visit our website or contact us via the web chat or phone. Our mission is to ensure that no one has to go through this journey alone. We're committed to providing the guidance and community support that you need to heal and thrive. Thank you for listening and supporting our mission. Together, we can build a network of support and create a space where everyone can find their path to freedom and fulfillment.
And now, back to Recovering from Religion Stories Australia.
Wow. So I'm getting this image of your 30s, 40s, that they were a blur of a flurry of activity, living life minute by minute, back to back, cooking, taking care of the kids, schools, and then on top of all that, your Christadelphian responsibilities. You were in the AB, and you were also doing even more sophisticated things. You mentioned to me that you founded a school. Is that right? Tell us more about the school that you founded.
So Chris, I think it was Adelaide was the first one, wasn't it? So they started one in Adelaide.
Called Heritage College. Children are a heritage from Yahweh.
Heritage, right?
Yep. So the one in Adelaide is Christadelphians only, because that was the only way they get their registration through the government. We founded one in Perth.
2000.
Maybe? Round about that. I'm really bad with dates.
About 2002.
Yeah. And that was, without a doubt, we were the primary movers. There was one other brother who was phenomenal by way of all the building work. He's an engineer, and he threw himself totally and utterly into that.
Wow.
But it consumed us for 2 years because we originally applied for it, got rejected by the government. We challenged it. So we established this literally a whole school.
You're trying to find a block of
buying a block of land, doing buildings, every single night. We were up there for like 3 to 4 months. It was just it was insane. Every weekend doing the stuff.
That's remarkable.
And we founded the school.
Or ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous.
Because we were at the same time, we were also producing CDs for Sunday school. So one big thing is as a child, you learn really well by singing, nursery rhymes, ABC. And so I was really big on saying, we actually don't have music that correlates with all the lessons and that. So why don't we do that? So we said to the Sunday School Association, would you be interested? So then, and this was we did it properly in terms of they're not all Christadelphian songs. They're just your normal Sunday school songs as well. So we ended up producing 3 CDs. They had 50 songs on them, but average each over the 5 years as well. And we had 2 practices a week, one with a children's choir and one with a senior choir. I don't know how we did that as well, but we did.
You a lot. I'm still hung up on the school bit. So how do you make a school? How old were you at the time?
2000. So we would have been, 30. I can't do the numbers. 30-ish, early 30s.
And you're building a school, and what's the student population?
So we had
about
school, so we had to find the teachers, find a headmaster. I was working in a school at the time.
I was as well. I was working at Wesley College as well. So it did help.
Okay, so
having
you were both
some
working, education.
just building a school on the side.
We were working as well,
Yes, while working full time
and raising kids.
Yeah.
Yep.
How silly is that? No, honestly, how stupid is that? You can't keep going like that.
No, I was literally about to ask, did you burn out at any point?
Annie burnt out dramatically. I think I'm now suffering now. As a psychologist now, I go, the body does definitely keep the score. Yeah. And I definitely hit the wall. Over the last 10 years, I've done a lot of that, teaching myself to relax, teaching myself to take that time out. But I find it so hard, so hard. My boss keeps going, Travis, you're doing too much.
You get in a habit, right?
You do doing something, because if you're not utilising.
And the moment the silence falls, you start to feel anxious, right? It's like, okay, so the clock just hit maybe 1 hour of inactivity, say, on a holiday. And you're like,
Yes.
I don't think you could sit still for that long, could you?
Probably not.
Yeah.
And I think your just body is so exhausted. You're just literally, I think we survived on about 4 to 5 hours sleep for about 5 to 6 years.
Wow.
And I mean,
I was going to say
I'm not
10 years.
joking. Like literally we were. And I just
You can't keep
trying
doing
to
that.
keep, no. And that is a really big problem with these religions, that because they keep you busy. And whilst not everyone does maybe the same amount of as we did, it is encouraged that you do. And if not, you aren't doing, or I didn't feel like you're glorifying God, or you're not doing enough.
Yeah.
Well, the message is that you are more valued the more you do, isn't it? And so,
That's
but
so
like you
true.
can never do enough because it's endless. It's relentless,
endless,
isn't
yeah.
it?
And therefore,
Absolutely.
if you're not doing anything, have you got value?
Exactly.
Wow, yeah.
And what's your part in the group? Where do you fit in the
How
group?
are you contributing?
Exactly.
And who's it for? And I think that comes very broadly, comes to me as identity, like learning who you really are, because I feel like your identity and who you really are is lost because it's called that it's a wrong thing to do. It's called humanistic. But actually for me, it's been a very good thing to start learning about who I am and what my thoughts are and what do I believe myself, not based on someone else's
Not what I'm told to
perceived.
believe.
What makes me?
Well, and this is, there's conversation out there, which I'm sure you've come across on many different podcasts and in books about whether you're born into a cult or high control group or you're converted into it, and the differences there, because for you, Annie, being born into it, you didn't have an identity before the group. Your
That's
identity
true.
developed within the group, whereas for you, Travis, it might have been different in the sense that you had this sort of sense of, you had your rock band and you had you had a life before the group. But either way, you still have to, when you come out of something like that, figure out, well, who am I? Who am I now? And who do I want to be?
And I think in some respects it's been easier for me to go, that's closed, bang, move on.
I agree.
For Annie, I've seen a real change and stuff that she'll sort of make a comment, go, well, there was this as well, and it's sort of like this, and I really feel for it. Like I just go, wow, I didn't have that same.
Yeah.
For me, my mind was blown when I sat down and said, could there not be a God? And is the Bible not true? Like that was just mind shattering. But I didn't have all the hang up of the rest of it. I felt like I was stepping back to like when I was 17.
Okay.
That's what,
Yeah.
Yes, as identity to reach back to.
Go
You
back
have
to
a
some
life
memory of
before
who
it.
you were before.
How about we set the stage now? So,
Okay.
for the deconstruction.
Break?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that your 30s and I take it these or part of your 40s were a flurry of activity. You were doing all sorts of church things. You were having people over. You were actually really senior in the local congregation. You were founding schools. You were running programs. I assume running Bible studies and all of that on the side of having jobs and raising kids. Frantically busy. And as we were just discussing, religions keep you really busy. They just give you more and more stuff to do because what's the phrase? Idle hands are the devil's playground. So you just got to stay busy. And we were just touching on, Annie, whether you ever got to a point of burnout or either of you ever started to burn out during that period.
Yeah, I definitely did. Probably, I'm trying to remember when it was, but I mean, the girls would have been about 15. So yeah, and I had to take like 6 weeks off work. My body just basically just collapsed.
Yeah.
It just said no. And really depression, wasn't it? It really it looked like it was in depression sort of thing. And I was really awful, sort of like chronic fatigue type sort of a thing more.
Yes.
But everything just broke down. I'd have anaphylaxis and but pretty well it was burnout.
Yeah, the accumulated stress and exhaustion of all the years.
Absolutely.
And I found it really difficult because I couldn't go and do the after things. You couldn't go to suppers or you couldn't go and do the things that you normally could because I just couldn't. I literally couldn't.
Should we get to the end of the day, cook the dinner, we'd tidy up after dinner, and then the kids would go off to do their study or something like that, their schoolwork and stuff, or get to bed because our girls were always up early training and stuff. And then Annie would collapse on the lounge.
And that was it.
Yeah. She would then fall asleep. I would then do another couple of hours work, wake her up, and we'd go to bed. And that then became the cycle. Horrible.
Really bad, isn't it?
And did that get you questioning? What was going through your mind?
No, not really.
I just thought you had to be stronger. You had to keep going because that's what's expected of you. Because you were doing this work and you just had to keep doing it, and you just couldn't. And it was just the weak mortal body that we had. Yeah, and I just kept pushing.
Definitely didn't cause any questioning.
Okay.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then what happens? Set the stage for us. Like, how did the doubts come when they came?
I think there was a couple of things. I'll do my one with psychology first. So Steph, our eldest, she was the most driven person I think I've ever come across as a kid.
Intrinsically.
And she would drive herself. I wonder where she got that from.
Where on earth did she learn that?
I have no idea. She was a super intelligent kid as well, like super intelligent. And I started doing triathlons, went on and did 3 Ironman triathlons, which is again extreme. Who would have thought? And Steph got involved in triathlon, and then Alex got dragged along kicking and screaming. They started doing swimming when they were younger, and they were in squad swimming and stuff. So Steph got really involved in triathlon, worked out what she wanted to do. She wanted to go to the Olympics, absolutely, and she was on that pathway. And she, leading into year 12, she was on the excellence program. She was, identified within the senior ranks of Australian triathlon. She was like top 1 and 2 in her age group as a girl. The other girl that she used to swap 1 and 2 with did go on to the Olympics a couple of, some years later. Anyway, so Steph and I were off to an open water swim one morning, Saturday morning. We were riding down forget where it was, and she got hit by a car. So we were going on top of a T intersection. Someone came in, didn't see us, drove into us, I was in front, clipped my back wheel. I didn't come down from that, but got Steph and she was thrown up onto the car. Did a type 3 shoulder injury and massive concussion that they didn't pick up really. And she totally changed, didn't she? She went from a girl who would sit down for 6 hours straight study to a girl who couldn't concentrate for 20 minutes.
And because she was doing year 12 and she was highly academic.
Absolutely.
She really basically missed term 1.
Of year 12.
Yeah, and really struggled with that as well.
Yeah.
Yep, massively.
I think because she'd actually had a really bad head injury the November before, where she'd come down going, 52 kilometres or something an hour around a roundabout and clipped someone's wheel. She was in a big group and came over down onto the curb on her head. But she didn't know who we were. We got to hospital. She had no idea who we were and that. That was like
before.
Year 11.
And she went to Queensland for a training camp, an AIS training camp. Then she came down again. I think she broke her wrist, didn't she?
Yeah, someone in front came down. She just came on top of them and broke her wrist. But she finished the race. But we got another call from the hospital.
Another one, okay. I couldn't go to that one. And there was another incident then, and then there was the accident with the car.
Yeah, so she actually had
4.
She had quite a lot of concussions.
Okay.
And so I think and look, that started a whole series of stuff with poor old Steph. But for me as a father, and Steph and I had always gotten on really well, connected, we just understood each other. And all of a sudden I'm looking at this girl going, I don't know what's going on. I'm an accountant. I'm going, I've got no idea what's going on. That started me, and I'd always been interested in the way the brain works. And whenever I was doing Bible study, I was interested in people's reactions from a brain functioning point of view. And then that started me thinking more about this, and then some years passed, another 10 years before I had an opportunity to walk away from accounting and started doing my undergrad so I got my first degree in accounting, in commerce, accounting and corporate administration, and then went back to uni to do a diploma in science and do my undergrad for psychology, did that part-time, working part-time, and then that started me on the psychology pathway, eventually becoming a registered psych. That process started me really thinking, and accounting at uni is very transactional. You're taught how to do stuff. In psychology, you're taught how to think. And I started thinking about stuff. And not that I was really questioning God or that sort of stuff, but I think it was laying the foundation for me to start being more critical about what I was reading. And I found as we went along, my talks were becoming less Bible, more psychology. And at the same time also, we had Alex coming along. You can talk about Alex.
Oh,
I think that's important because that was
so
that was
what
a
we were
real-
saying about Alex before. So Alex was
Yeah.
very questioning, very curious, as was Steph, but Steph was very different in how she would come out with what she thought. Alex really questioned literally every single thing that we did, like every
dreadful
single thing.
for baptism. The amount of arguments I had with her, Alex, this is the answer. Please just say this.
She's has a lot of
okay, Dad.
opinions.
It's
So
beautiful,
basically,
absolutely
she, hasn't eaten meat since she's like 12 because she disagrees with that, and going past like those big trucks full of sheep and cattle going off to market was actually triggering for her. So, and she was also very much for the prisoner or the poor people. She didn't think there should be prisons. She now works in the prison system and thinks the opposite. So she literally did actually start questioning a lot of stuff, and actually that really helped me to question things more. Well, I was questioning probably similar types of things, but it allowed me to go, oh, yes. And so we had a lot of philosophical arguments and discussions about this.
Yeah. And how old was she again at the time?
Oh, so she's
17?
about 18.
18?
Yeah.
Right.
And
She didn't really ever want to be, actually.
Right.
And then we did not. Steph was the opposite. She really wanted to be. In fact, she wrote us a letter about it. And Alex didn't. And then I was really surprised when she said she wanted to be. Because she said she didn't believe in sacrificing, and that's one of the big things. Animal sacrifice, to sacrifice yourself and shed blood. She thinks that's just disgusting.
So it sounds like Alex was very independent of mind.
Very.
absolutely.
Like well in
to-
with religion.
No, and I'm going to tell you one thing that happened with her. Both Alex and Steph learnt the piano very differently. Alex very much like jazz and that sort of stuff, and Steph very rigid and Beethoven, Mozart. So interesting. But they both enjoyed it for their just to enjoyment and to stress less and that sort of thing. But Alex loved playing for church. So she would play for church and worship songs and that sort of stuff like that. And she loved embellishing. So, which is fine. I did too, not just having the hymn. And we have this actually awful person. He really is awful. I have him in my dreams. So from quite a long time, because he's really haunted my dreams. It's been really interesting.
He was an older member of the church. So.
Yeah, and he's still in there. And he's a really awful person. But he came up to me when I was playing, and he did it a couple of times and would whisper to me when he was like on the chair, play only the notes on there, nothing else, and was really whatever. And I just ignored him. Like I literally just went, and very angry, but ignored him. He actually did the same to Alex, much worse. So we had like Sunday morning, everything's very quiet. I don't know what your churches were like, but ours are very formal, in rows, quiet, chairman up there, piano playing. And then you have like what you call a meditation at the beginning. So the speaker usually picks it that it goes with whatever they're going to speak about, and it's a hymn or whatever. Our church hadn't quite got to the worship songs. There's a whole lot of worship books that Christadelphians had, but they weren't right for playing at church, right? So anyway, even though everyone played it at home. Anyway, she was playing this. Everyone was listening. She was just playing it. And, of course, she added a few extra notes or, whatever.
Just some creativity.
Yes,
And this is a man who can't read music.
And he literally
So
came up
he
to her.
can't read music.
Came off the platform,
He's
came
German.
to her. Remember, she's only an 18-year-old girl, and said, stop playing that. You stop adding all that thing. You'll play just the notes on that. That's and then, you know what she did? So this is Alex for you. She jumped up, tore her hat off her head, like a beret sort of thing, tore her shoes off and goes, no, I refuse that. This is disgusting. Don't treat me like that. And then said, Mum, you play. And I went, no, thank you.
And stormed
ran
out.
Oh, good on her.
And she literally dissolved into tears. And obviously that's a big thing when you're in, can you imagine all the...
Yeah.
So a little bit of we're going to
whispering.
pause here for a moment. A little bit of background with this gentleman. He and I had numerous run-ins. Okay, so I would often run late to a Bible class. If I was doing the Bible class, I'd walk in like a minute too. And the amount of times he would just rip into me about how disgusting that is, because you need to be here on time, you need to be all this sort of stuff. And I go, so
just finished work.
Just finished work. I've had dinner, and I had some real run-ins with him, okay? And I had other run-ins with him because I was a recorder at the time, and he was demanding sort of stuff. So I was having lots of run-ins with this guy.
Kind of a major family in Perth.
There was also lots of family history between Annie's family and this other family.
He told me, he did my baptism interview, he told me you could never have a bra showing. He would pull your bras at church. He told me my hat was inappropriate. Yeah, very very
purity,
inappropriate.
that'll be another hour's discussion.
No.
The purity culture within Christadelphia. So there was a lot of tension with this chap, okay? And his son, Big Mover and Shaker, was on the AB with me. He wasn't on the AB at this time, but Big Mover and Shaker, right? So Alex got up, storms out, massive big scene, and this guy, by this time, he was shaking with anger. And he made some comments, and I was on the door, and I just stood up and said, so-and-so, don't you stop attacking my family. Like, I yelled, probably not the best thing. And he just went for me, like yelling at me across this whole meeting. And then he storms off. And the hall was divided into two. There was on the right-hand side, there was the where the meeting was. The other one was the entry part. He stormed out a door. I stepped across, and he just kept going at me. And I just says, don't you ever stop attacking my family, because I know he'd attacked Daddy numerous times. Absolutely. Some other people stepped in, and then he took off, and blah, blah, blah. Everything was settled down. And I thought, okay, cool. That's fun. Major incident.
Alex, to her credit, I didn't expect her to, but she actually went in and finished playing.
Went back and played.
I would not have done that. I would have just gone, that's enough.
Yeah.
But in one sense, that probably showed that the Bible doesn't change you.
And then the irony of this little story was, at the next AB meeting, I got hauled over the coals because it was all my fault.
Oh, no, right.
The son absolutely ripped in. He was one of my good friends, absolutely ripped into me about how wrong I was. It was totally my fault. The whole thing was my fault. I'm just sitting there going, no, sorry.
Wow.
I'm just going.
And you don't treat anyone like that. There's nothing wrong about that. That's just what happens. And lots of little incidences like that do happen along the way. And when you put them all together, it's actually horrific. This particular man actually had a business, and he actually physically hit his apprentice, who was a Christadelphian.
Oh, no. Wow.
Yeah.
Very angry man.
Very angry man.
And but still allowed to. So my big question was, and it was a little bit of the start of my, as well, I think part of that breaking apart was how can someone like that, and how can they treat someone like people around them if they're this amazing, faithful person that everyone says they are, and they don't get hauled over the coals, but someone younger who didn't actually do anything wrong, and that's ridiculous, is treated like that.
Yeah.
So it's it starts.
And that's where the cognitive dissonance starts, isn't
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So,
Hang on a second.
So
This doesn't make sense.
So Alex, we're going to try and keep this short. Alex then we did a family tour holiday through Europe, met up with this Canadian guy in a Bible school in
we went to
Germany.
a Bible school in the middle of it. Actually, it was really good fun.
Anyway,
it was really good fun, though.
So met this chap. They fell in love, and he followed us around Europe, literally coming down to Venice from Germany.
Did. He's lovely.
Anyway, so they then got together, and he's a software engineer, and the course he was doing was they would do a certain amount at uni, and then they'd do practical. So he had one more practical to do, and then one more block of theory to do. He got a job in Australia, in Perth, working for a software firm for his practical. So he came out and lived with us for half a year. And then they had to go back to Canada, and by this time they were together.
For visa stuff.
And Steph had left. She was in Sydney doing medicine. And so he had to go back, and they were going to go back and just live together. And at this stage, Annie and I were going, okay, that's cool. We were comfortable with that.
And Silas had distanced himself. His family was Christadelphian in Canada, very conservative family.
And very big in the
big family.
Canadian.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
And they basically said, you can't live together, you have to get married.
Yeah.
We put on, I'd moved
She
over
was
to Sydney at this stage.
20?
In 3 months, Annie and
totally
Annie put
against
together a wedding, against our wishes.
I didn't say anything, sorry, but inside I'm going, don't get married.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
sorry.
The reason for that is that they went to Canada, they came back just at COVID time. And when they came back, that's when they really pulled away. They'd already been doing lots of questioning. They'd been staying and listening to atheist podcasts.
They had actually already pulled away. They just,
they hadn't officially done it.
They hadn't formally done it as a letter.
see.
Not that you actually have to.
Right. No. But so Alex was 20, you said?
This would have been 21, 22.
No,
Okay.
22.
So they came back, they moved back to Perth. We were in Sydney or Newcastle at this stage. And they really, that day, at this stage, they were open. We're having lots of discussions with them around.
So this is what, around 2020, COVID?
Yeah,
right?
COVID, 2021, big
okay,
COVID.
So very recent.
Yes, very recent.
And we're having lots of chats with them because Alex would just, as Alex does, she just says what's in her mind, and she would say, "You're stupid. This is crazy. You need to listen to this podcast. You need to listen to that." And we'd sort of go, "Okay, yes." And I wouldn't listen to them, but Annie would.
I did. And so thus that actually did start me along learning things and listening to different people and actually going, oh, hang on. Okay, that's a different way of looking at it. Let's study that.
Wow.
So I took quite a lot of like studies, particularly like Bart Ehrman. I did a lot of his stuff and bought a lot of his, he does these webinars that go for like six sessions and that sort of stuff. So I sort of paid for that and sat down and actually studied it, like literally took notes and had my Bible.
So
and
that's a Bible study thing, right?
Oh, he's a
So he's
New
a-
Testament scholar.
He's
an
not
academic.
Yes, he's not religious at all. He was religious, but he came out of religion, but he still teaches it and he's a
Fascinating.
His stuff is incredible.
Sorry, yes, I do know the name.
Yeah.
I
And
think what's good about his was logical for me to follow, and he, having been in like I think it was a Baptist area or whatever he had been in, he knew the language as well, like that language to go okay.
He's married to a Christian. I believe his wife is still a Christian,
right.
but very progressive.
So you're studying Bart Ehrman, was it? You're studying
Yes,
like actual Bible courses that are a little bit more secular in flavor?
Absolutely.
sort of Bible courses in the sense of like questioning, like did Jesus really rise from the dead, or what was in the tomb, or the prophecies of are the messianic prophecies that Jesus spoke about, are they actual prophecies or not? That type of thing.
Did Jesus actually exist? All of that sort of stuff. And
My
sort of like,
mind just was.
wow, this is just a whole world we didn't know anything
This
about.
information is out there.
I think because also he is a really good Greek and Hebrew scholar. Like he speaks it and knows it and that sort of stuff. And you just go, wow, so much we just didn't know. And we're not even like, so one of my big questions was the Bible. That's where Christadelphians take everything from. That's their divine inspiration and everything like that. That's God talking through everything. So what is it about the Bible? So I literally went back to find out the history of the Bible, and that was my undoing.
Yes.
And at the same time, my undoing was really interesting because I'd been asked to do a talk at a youth group event, and they wanted me to do a talk on depression and anxiety. And I went into psychology with this idea, really bizarre idea, that I would be able to help the people who had mental health issues within the church.
Yes.
Okay, because they needed it. I saw there was nothing of that, Little did I know how much resistance I was going to get becoming a psychologist. So I was asked to do this talk. So I got up and did this talk, and this is my bread and butter. This is what I do every single day, and I'm talking about this sort of stuff. And there's certain families in Christadelphia that are very big, and there was this one kid who came from one of these really big families in Newcastle. He's like 18. And he started challenging everything I was saying. And he's going, but you need to have faith. God can stop this stuff and done it. And I'm going, okay, look, that's one way of looking at it. But, there's probably another way. And this is what the research tells us. And he just absolutely was ripping into me the whole time.
He knew everything.
Absolutely. And I was just getting angrier and angrier. And anyway, we finished the session. That was fine. We then went for a holiday over to Perth and we're staying with Silas and Alex. And we were talking one night. And Silas turns around to me. He goes, so what do you believe in the Bible and with God? I said, well, to me at this stage, the one thing I was holding on to was, I said, look at our body. It is just incredible. Little do I know now, having actually started to understand what the body's like, how bad a design is.
Not quite as incredible as we were told.
But I said, this was amazing. It had to have been created. Yeah. And he went, oh, okay. Before that, I'd ranted the night before about this situation I'd had with this young kid. And I was really dumb of me. I said, I'm the psychologist in the room. How dare this kid challenge me? This is what I do for a job, right? And he didn't say anything at the time. Fast forward the next night, he goes, so why do you believe in the Bible? I said, because human creation is just beautiful. It's amazing. He goes, he says, there's a lot of people who their job is genetics and that sort of stuff, and they actually have come to the conclusion that it's evolution. And I looked at him. And he did not say a single thing more. And I felt like I had been kicked in the solar plexus by a mule. And I just went, I almost opened my mouth and went, each morning I journal probably around about half to 3/4, maybe an hour each morning. I just reflect on what day's been, and I do a lot of reading around Stoic philosophy and stuff. I got up the next morning and I went, what if there isn't a God? Okay. And then I said, how would that change me as a person? And what if the Bible isn't true? 3 hours, because I got up really early that morning. Everyone else was sleeping in. Someone loves to sleep in.
That's me.
And 3 hours. And I actually, at the end of that, I got to the point I said, if I believe the only basis, and I went back to what for years I'd been preaching to people about the Bible and how true it was and how I could prove it. Running seminars every single, I did seminars every Tuesday night for like 3 years, all about this. And I'm going, the only reason I believe in the Bible is it says it's God's word. It was chosen by popular belief as to what were the favourite books at the time. And it was completely made up by man. And then I got Annie's stuff that she's starting to go in the background. And I went, if I believe in the Bible, the God of the Bible, I've got to believe in Zeus. I've got to believe in the Hindu gods. I've got to believe in the Egyptian gods, because that's the same basis.
Yeah.
And I just went,
It all falls apart.
okay, my brain's hurting. I need to go and that was for me.
That was your
That was
a real defining
That was my moment.
Yeah.
I literally felt my brain explode.
Yes.
And I just went, what if? And it's one of the most enlightening moments. I never had feelings when I was in religion. I never had movements by God. I wasn't touched by stuff. But this time I was like,
Yes.
I think
It's almost a spiritual experience for you.
what does that word mean?
What does that word
I was
mean?
about to use the word awakening.
it was an awakening.
Yeah.
It was honestly an awakening. And I've only ever had it once more. When the morning I woke up after our daughter died, I literally felt that my brain was slapped. I can remember opening my eyes and feeling as if someone just went in my head and just went whack. And it was the same feeling when I sat down this morning for 3 hours and just wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's huge.
It was just massive.
I think combined with that too, because we obviously spoke about that, was I had been questioning, what does worship actually mean? I don't really get worship. Like when we say worship God, what does that mean? And why does he need someone to worship him if he's got everything, you know? So I had that sort of stuff. I couldn't work out what spiritual meant. And then using the word faith, because we're faith-based, faith. That's something that requires no evidence. And I started to go, whoa. And then I'm going to tell you the big thing that happened. So as part of the church where we were in Newcastle, during COVID, we had a lovely girl who's really good friends of ours now, who'd come from a family in Adelaide that I knew. She was living in Sydney, in Newcastle, and asked if she could board with us. So we did. And then she actually fell in love with a lovely boy we met at the German Bible school on the other side of the thing, who lived in Adelaide. Yes, it's very, and he ended up coming and staying as well during COVID. We had them. Anyway, they ended up moving out eventually, and they had their own. He went to some flatmate and she went to some friends anyway. And then, they realised that it was getting very expensive and they were having sex, all right? And they were
And they
married.
wanted to get married.
And they wanted to get
married.
Okay.
So
Is
was
it
it
okay?
No sex before marriage. And so I'm not sure that many people really that happens, but that's
what
should happen. Yeah. And anyway, and they just said, they were trying to be authentic, and they said, we're going to be authentic, we're going to go and live together. But they did a commitment ceremony themselves, which we got invited to.
So talk to us and said, what do you think? I said, well, as far as I'm concerned, the Bible says that you only have to say vows and that's a marriage.
Because we were still
Bottom line of it.
biblically at this sort of kind of stage. And
so they went, cool.
no, that's right. And anyway, so we went there and a couple of their friends, and they did a commitment ceremony. Anyway, they sent it through to their families, and that caused a huge uproar, right? Both families are in the church in Adelaide. Anyway,
One's very conservative.
Anyway,
the father's very conservative.
Anyway, there was a whole lot of stuff that went on there that I won't go into, but the arranging brothers of that church, because they were at the same church, well, he has never baptised, had a meeting about
Got
them
involved.
and what their sexual life was in that.
Okay. Yeah.
It was at one of our friends' house, and they were really angry about it. Anyway, that's it. I just said, that's it. I can't
You
do this
see this
anymore.
woman, like,
and I just wrote a letter and I said, I'm sorry,
vociferous,
I'm withdrawing fellowship, because that is absolutely disgusting that you think that you can talk about someone else's personal life and sex life with a group of 7 men in a room without them there, not knowing any of the thing. And I said that was like the top icing on the cake. I just went, I'm sorry.
I'm out.
And at the same time, I had done a series of talks on a Sunday morning, like over a space of a couple of months. And again, my talks are becoming more and more psychologically based. And I did one on vulnerability. I did one on traditions about, okay, if we've got traditions in the church, let's just call them traditions. They're not from God. They're man-made. If you want to do it, that's fine. If it's a membership.
If it's not harming someone.
Yeah, that's cool. Knock your socks off.
Some traditions are good.
Some not so good.
You've got, so is that okay? Yep. And then I did one on authenticity, about being authentic. Okay. I go off my notes really badly. Like when I start talking, that's it. And I'll have these ideas, and yes, I'm hurrying up. It's really important because anyway, in the discussion, I made a reference to a group of transgender people that I was working with when I became a psychologist about how they weren't anti-God. They were just people trying to determine themselves. And I made the comment, I said, these people understand themselves more than what I do, because I've always been told I'm a man because I can look between my legs and see what's there. Okay, that's it. I'm a man. Okay, these people actually understand what they really are. And I said this in his talk.
Oh my goodness. Can't imagine that going down well.
It went down like a lead balloon. And I got a lot of really good response. People came up and said, oh, that's fantastic. Because I then led into being authentic, being honest with people and opening up the ability to talk about what's really going on. Anyway, so a lot of people came up, fantastic, but in the next AB meeting, it got brought up how wrong I was, how disgusting I was. I then got visits from one of the ABs saying my filthy occupation's causing me to do this.
Wow.
Which was a bit,
you must be coming out.
Yes, must be coming out, all of that sort of stuff.
Filthy occupation.
Registered psychologist.
Yeah.
Yep, that's okay. We'll move on.
What some people would say.
Yeah.
I never really quite heard psychology described as filthy.
Filthy occupation. So then they, as an AB, they decide, we'll still let Travis talk, but he has to supply his speech, his talk before he does
your
it.
notes.
Monitor.
And I just said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that. Not in any respects. You can go take a very big leap off a very short plank. At the same time, this was happening. These two things were happening.
So this was concurrent.
Happening at very similar
God
time.
was working in behind this.
And I think I just, coupled with what I was learning from Bart Ehrman and then listening to stuff, my mind was blown. And I must say I got into a bit of a feverish state of trying to work it all out.
Yes, I know that. Yeah, it's obsession.
Feverish is an understatement.
But my whole world view had just collapsed around me. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
And I'm going, hang on. Who am I?
Yeah.
What am I doing?
Yeah.
And the other thing that I found really quite distressing was that, I'm a real people person. I love my family, warts and all, and I love extended family and people and that. And I knew I had to write a letter to them all. It's not expected.
Right.
It was me. It was by choice. Travis didn't, because
You never call me that.
only when he's in trouble. Because I felt like I owed it to them. I don't think that I really did in one sense, but that's what I felt. And that I had to explain why. So it was a few pages long, and that I didn't want it to affect our relationship if possible, and it shouldn't, but of course it does. And that I just can't stay a Christadelphian. I can't go back there. I just do not believe the Bible is what they say it is. So, and I knew there was going to be a big reaction from that. One thing that I'm really happy is that my immediate family, have been really, really beautiful, and I have relationship with them. I'm not saying that they're not unhappy with me, because I believe they are. In fact, there's, they say quite hurtful things sometimes that they probably don't realise is hurtful. But one thing is, I realise that it's not worth sometimes saying things, because I know where they were at. I know that I've been there maybe before. Yeah.
So it gives you empathy and compassion for their state of mind.
Yes.
When they say those things, right? Because you've been there yourself. You've
recognizing
believed those things.
Yes, I know. And how hard, recognizing though that it's wrong what they're doing, because and that. Sure. So I feel like I've been a lucky one in keeping my relationships.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
With your family.
And you do learn who your really good friends are,
Yes, yes, you do. Yeah, it reveals a lot.
I don't know about you, but like you go, oh yeah, you're my truth, you were, yeah.
Some friendships can transcend that difference and others just can't. They fall apart. How much sleep did you lose, Annie, during this period of time of obsessive research and learning?
Well, during this time, she was also starting her uni degree.
Oh, yeah,
so he was the 53-year-old going back to university to become a social worker and just finished. Absolutely.
That was really good. So I was doing that at the same time, and I was working as well and in a school. Actually, I worked in Heritage College, and then I worked at another school, Newcastle Grammar. I think looking back on it, and we didn't go to Newcastle for the reason of separating Christadelphia at all. It was because a job came up for Travi, and Steph was already over in Sydney was going to Canada. So it was like, let's go over for a couple of years. And Travis from there, so I could be closer to his family for once. And
Yes.
but actually we're still there. We'll be there for 6 years by the time we come home. But I think what it has allowed for us is that distance. So now coming back to Perth when we do at the end of the year, it's allowed us to have stepped away.
From Christadelphia.
Yeah.
And the geographical distance does actually make a difference.
Absolutely.
I think so.
Really does help.
I really do. Particularly, I think when we were so involved.
Yep.
So I feel like that's been a really good thing.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, that's incredible. So all of this, your transition out of belief was about 3 years ago, correct?
Yeah, the formal stuff.
Probably
was.
was.
4 years ago, 3 years ago.
Probably been happening for about 10 years when you look back and go.
Gradual. Yeah. You look back, especially Travis, you keep journals, so you must, I journal a lot too. And I find it really fascinating to look at, like, in retrospect, I'll say, my faith crisis or transition was 2015. But then I'll go read my journals from like 2012 and I was speaking about science and evolution back then. And it's like, oh, wait, I didn't realize how much the seeds of that eventual change were mixed in there. So I'm sure it's the same for you, especially with such a long lead up. Like, slowly over time, you're studying psychology one bit at a time, your mind is changing. Right?
Absolutely. And I think Annie, you start to allow yourself to ask questions that you never did.
Yes. It's like you have to ask permission, isn't it?
Give yourself permission, don't you?
Yeah. And both of us have sort of sat down and gone, we've always had these questions, but I'd never allow myself to ask. And particularly as a speaker, there's no way you would ask those questions. I was anti-conscientious objection. I would say, yes, I would go in as a jolly ambulance driver. Like, yes, if that happened, like, surely helping people.
Can't join the police force or the army or anything like that.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. So, I would always, and I never let myself ask those questions. And I always had these contradictions in scripture that I couldn't answer. Like harmonizing the gospels. I would spend hours trying to make it all fit, and this one's adding to this. And now I go,
no, it's not.
No, it's not. It's just a load of rubbish. This is a document written by men. And Annie's, you often talk about questions that you say, I always had this question.
So one big thing is the misogyny and the patriarchy.
Yeah. That becomes a lot clearer once you come out, doesn't it?
So,
that Bible is written by men, for men only. And I think what the horrific thing, I think of myself subscribing to this loving God. In fact, we had a Sunday school song. One of my favourite ones was God is wisdom, God is love. And it's a beautiful song. Not now. Because actually he believes in raping, in graping, in molesting. He actually subscribes to that. And Jesus did too.
The microphone.
And owning a wife and owning people and owning your children and all of this.
Owning slaves.
This slavery.
Aside.
The only thing that I say, at least it didn't happen, is the only thing in my mind. I'm going, they didn't come in and destroy all the Canaanites. I go, at least that didn't happen, thank goodness.
Well, Alex did actually introduce to Betty, she was about 15, she goes, that's disgusting, Noah's Ark. God, look what he did. Like and all the plankton and all the stuff in that can't live in salt water, and she was all of these ideas that were coming, and like only 8 people. He's awful. And I just go. I taught Sunday school lessons about Noah and how wonderful it was that 8 people were saved, and all the lovely little animals that fit into the ark. We paint these wonderful pictures, and they're not, and that he's faithful, and that's a good thing. No, faith is actually ridiculously stupid because it's not got any evidence for it.
Yes, to praise faith is to praise belief without evidence. We praise it as a virtue, or religions praise it as a virtue, but it's
not.
And as you said there, Annie, the only reason now you can say this, you can speak this way, is because, and yourself as well, Travis, you let yourselves go down that path.
Yes.
And I mean, I think for most people, it's once you start going down that path, you can't go back.
Definitely not.
Was that your experience for both of you?
Yeah, and I think I use the expression, I'm still very fundamental in that sense, i.e., if it doesn't work, I can't believe it. I couldn't go to a church and just be a member of a church and go, I'm going to throw myself into the outreach and stuff like that, because fundamentally it's wrong.
Yeah.
yes.
It's built on the foundations of it.
I think I'm the same. Like, I have some lovely friends as well who are Christadelphian, who don't necessarily subscribe to the basis of faith, but it feels nice when the music happens. It feels good. It's the community feeling that feels good. And I can't do something if I don't believe it. I can't do that. So it's not for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think, well, that definitely resonates with people like us, because we took it very seriously all the way through. And when you've taken it so seriously, you can't just stop and like, oh yeah, I'll just take the nice bits. Not to mention, it's my conviction that everything good about religion is available outside of it, and probably way more.
Yeah. Yep. It's very societal, isn't it? Like what society has encouraged. I think also another thing that I really struggled with, and it's something I'm going to pursue now after, I'm not leaving the whole religion thing behind in terms of the harms that have come from them. I'm going to continue on that vein, is the sexual prevalence. So in Christadelphia, and you'll be able to see some of it by Googling.
Is that sexual abuse?
Prevalence of sexual abuse. Yeah. So particularly the fact that if you speak out about it, or if you tell someone, you're shut down. And I've been told so many stories, unfortunately, by the people themselves, and that they have not ever been valued or listened to, and they've been told not to say anything, and you can't say that against that family or that brother, or no, don't do that because your whole family's going to shatter, or oh no, you can't go to the police, they're not, So I think, and that is still today happening now, and it's covered over, and that's something I'm not going to let happen. I can't let go because it's very harmful, and I think because one of my things that I was really passionate about is with my thesis of masking coercive control, and how particularly women, because that's where the research is and the evidence is at the moment, it's terrible amongst women, not just in our Christadelphia, but across the world. And in Australia, we have high rates of it in refugee people, because that's their culture as well. So they're stuck. But yeah, it's something that I would like to pursue because of what's happened, and not something that's happened to me though at all.
Actually, earlier on in RFR Stories, we interviewed Chrissy Foster. Have you heard of her before? So Chrissy Foster is one of the leading experts on the topic of child sexual assault in the Catholic Church. She wrote 2 books, Hell on the Way to Heaven and Still Standing. Right. And she spent her entire career essentially being an activist against this, because 2 of her daughters were sexually assaulted by one of the most infamous pedophiles in the Catholic Church.
Oh my goodness. Is she from here?
She's from Melbourne.
Victoria.
Yeah.
So was she part of the Royal Commission?
She was involved in that.
Instrumental, really, in it, wasn't she?
Okay.
In getting it to happen.
So 2 of my uni professors, one of them was part of it, and one of them was actually a survivor.
Oh, they'll probably
yes, definitely.
During the national apology, Chrissy Foster was there next to Julia Gillard. There's a panning shot with the camera that covers both of them, and we interviewed her about a year ago now. If you want to check that out, and if any of our listeners want to check that interview out,
absolutely,
it was a remarkable interview, and her books are harrowing. Yeah,
I think that as I've binged a bit of stuff, and because we're in Newcastle as well, one of the Netflix documentaries, Revelation, I don't know if you've one that it's an Australian one, and it's amazing, but it's of 3 places in Newcastle. So Newcastle's the second highest pedophilia in Australia.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's like Merriweather Morisset and out at Maitland, and it's 3 areas where you go and see. And yeah, it's actually very, very interesting because they actually go into the life of a Catholic priest just a few years ago as a pedophile and what he actually says what's going in his brain.
Wow.
Yeah.
Revelation.
It's called
well worth
Revelation.
watching. It's a bit confronting.
Topics. You ready?
I think it's that control again coming out in all of this.
Wow. No, that's remarkable. So I'm really inspired by your stories. And Travis, I especially really resonate with that moment of what if there isn't a God? Because I had similar moments along my own journey, and being able to ask those very large questions can be quite difficult. But at the same time, when your mind is ready for it, it's a remarkable experience, as you said.
Absolutely.
I'm comfortable to use the word spiritual. I know many people in RFR aren't. It's just a triggering word.
Yeah.
But I do think there's something special and of value about those moments of deep personal introspection and revelation.
Yes.
Where the house of cards just comes collapsing down. And it actually is something that feels very open in the mind, like an opening or an awakening. There's
That's a good
brightness,
word, the opening.
yeah, where there wasn't before. Like the clouds of all of those ideas just evaporate.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, this is...
And I always chuckle, you've got that quote in John, I think it is, where it says, the truth will set you free.
It so does.
And I go, yes.
Yes.
The real truth absolutely sets you free. Like to be able to go through a day and go, yeah, it was a good day. It was great. And not feel guilty, not to be constantly looking over your shoulder to think there's people watching you. Am I doing the right thing by God? Just being able to explore my own mind around a whole stack of stuff and comfortably do that and sometimes be surprised is just so beautiful. It's just like, I've never felt more free in my life.
I think
in a
it's
good
the
way.
freedom to think without judgment and opinion and bias. And I think for one of the things that I have really noticed is how judgmental these fundamental religions at least make a person. It's horrific, actually. Yeah.
Even though they claim not to be judgmental and to be loving and accepting. And
they're actually the opposite.
That really resonates with me. I was such a judgmental person.
Yeah.
I really was.
I'm
not saying everybody is, but I was.
Yeah, no, it kind of creates it. And I'll say one thing. So Steph, when after she died, we got given one of her journals. I'm not sure if we told you about this, but I think we did tell you. But I have burnt it because it's terrible to read. So she would write.
She was in med school, so first or second year med school.
Yeah,
okay, when she
journaled. Steph did a lot of journaling. And it said, dear Yahweh, I'm so sorry, I've just failed. I shouldn't have done that with that person, or, please forgive me. And it was page after page of this. And I was just like, oh my goodness, this is just,
Every single day.
I can't keep this. I have to burn this. It is horrific. And the fact that she felt like that, she's now dead, but you just go, wow, I just feel terrible that, that's a terrible thing to think.
That she experienced all of that shame and guilt.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. It wasn't even, it wasn't.
It's that, maybe that religious scrupulosity that they talk about.
That's a good word. I love that.
I'm
I have
not
to
gonna
slow
try and
down to
say
say
that.
this out. Which
Yes.
is, similar to OCD, because it's the obsessions, isn't it? The obsession with your sin and worthiness, and then the compulsion to constantly repent and say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. A lot of people talk about that around prayer, scrupulosity around
And
prayer, but this
confession.
constant need to be praying and to be checking in and making sure you're okay with God. You've mentioned Steph now. You've mentioned her death.
Yeah.
Is it okay for you to talk a little bit about her? Would that be all right if we asked a little bit about her?
Yes.
You probably see us cry. She was an amazing kid. She packed a lot into 28, almost 29 years when she died. She died a month prior to her 29th birthday. She had triple negative breast cancer. She became a doctor. She recovered from her injuries. She got back on track, did a degree in exercise physiology or science, I think it was, her undergrad, and then did medicine, got into the 2 chunks at the GAMSAT to end up in the top 5% and got a place at Sydney Uni. Both of my girls, I'm serious, I've got doubts about my wife. I think she was sleeping with a Greek god. Both of my girls are absolutely gorgeous and both super intelligent. And she she went on and became a doctor, and she was still in the church, and she was very heavily in the church. She had to walk away from her dreams of getting to the Olympics. They tried to put her in kayaking. She got to the point where they said, you cannot have another major accident.
On the road, on your bike.
On your bike. You've had too many accidents.
She did the velodrome as well, that as well.
She was, and she did this all herself. We didn't push her. She was determined. She went through, did a degree, qualified as a doctor, went into COVID when she was a new doctor, did a first 2 years rotation in Sydney. She was married during this time to a chap who was in the church. We didn't see eye to eye with him in any respects, and Steph withdrew herself from us.
He told us we weren't Christadelphian enough, and we hadn't.
Yep. It was
good parents, and
a tough period of time.
Hadn't given the right sort of holidays. And we'd pushed her to do all this stuff.
And yet she'd been the one. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway. So she then Christmas or Boxing Day
of December, I remember it clearly when she rang us up and told us that she had a lump.
She felt the lumps in her breast, and she goes, I'm a doctor, I know what this is. Yes, she'd just gotten a job as an ED doctor up in Brisbane, one of the big hospitals in Brisbane, and they literally, everything was packed up and
They'd bought a house.
Being picked up. They bought a house. Her husband's family are up there, and they're right near them. She never worked a day in Brisbane. She then started chemo.
IVF, then she did chemo, she did radio.
Had one mastectomy, a single mastectomy. Within the first 6 months, they said, so triple negative, if you're over 40, you might survive. If you're under 40, it's a death.
If you get over 5 years, you're likely to survive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when you're younger, it's more aggressive.
There's no cure.
After the 6 months of that, they then said, yep, we can't see anything. Everything's great. Let's have a couple of weeks off, go for a holiday, and then we'll start some just maintaining chemo and stuff like this. Went away for 2 weeks, collapsed, rushed to hospital in Adelaide. They scanned her and said...
That wasn't in Adelaide, that was up thinking.
Oh, no, it was up in Cairns, sorry. They scanned her and they said, there's cancer in your lungs, spine and kidney in 2 weeks, from being clear to being...
And that was for a PET scan, they scan the whole body.
And and they said, this is now terminal. So she then fought for another 11 months. Would have been horrific what she went through, and she passed away on the 29th of May. As a psychologist, I often say to my clients, when we're dealing with anxieties, when we're dealing with stuff that we don't want to face, I always say to them, I said, it's never going to be as bad as what you think. And you'd find the same, Sally Ann. It's never as bad as what you think. And it isn't. It isn't. There's one thing that is, and that was the worst day of our lives.
Yeah, I think for me, the worst day of my life was when her partner said, you can't have anything to do with us. Yeah. That broke me because it was so like, what? What are you talking about?
Just shunning
some of the things. Yeah, it was like her life was rewritten. Anyway, I mean, no, her death was like, I feel like it's still surreal.
Yeah.
You're talking about your child and
it was
you never
only
thought it would happen.
a year ago, right?
Yeah. You never thought it would happen to you.
And
it's not in our family, as in cancer's not a thing in our family. So it's not something you sort of expect. Yeah.
And it's real. There's when she was the terminal, I'd talk about it at work and great support from work, and you had great support, and you sort of go, this, it's surreal. And even now you go, oh, wow.
Can't imagine. I imagine what you've both been through, and suffering a double loss because you first lost contact with her, right? Yep. And that was 2 years before she passed away?
I think we were in periodic, we talked and that sort of stuff,
absolutely.
But it's not like we were a really close family, and of course we argued and laughed and loved and all that
like
together.
Every family.
Yes, but we were really talked. And suddenly, she would ring it every day to not ringing at all, and it was like, hang on, this is really bizarre. So
and we can't ever get to the bottom of that. Yeah, that's the one person who can explain all that and help us through that, and help all of us through it. She's no longer with us.
Yeah.
So, and then amidst all that, we're coming out of religion as well. So that was,
I know, it was like,
there was a bit going on in our
You've
brain.
had a lot of change in your life. Yeah.
It's been interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, life goes on, doesn't it? Sorry. Life's good. I think it is sad and it's horrible and it's horrific and all those bad words, but there's still lots of good stuff in life, and you have your times when you go, wow, why did this happen? And I think prayer is a really ugly word for me, because we're told so many times, you pray harder, you obviously didn't pray enough, for your daughter. Yeah, prayer is, and she was so, just got to pray and, God, whatever. But what is that happen when God doesn't listen to you? Why is that? Sorry. None of that makes sense. And yet to people it becomes, and I saw this when I did my thesis, the person who was abusing them, they would go back to the church as a support because it feels so good, and they would pray because it made them feel better, because there's apparently some support in that. For me now, I just go, don't say that word to me.
I mean, I can't imagine something more hurtful to say to someone who lost their child than you didn't pray enough.
Oh, you've got another one. Yeah, right.
We've got a spare. I even had one older brother send me an email a couple of weeks after, basically saying, I didn't realise that Steph was your daughter. Okay, good on you. And I can't remember exactly what he said, but when I read it, I went, I cannot believe you just said that. You basically said it was God's will that she died.
Yeah, so...
Yeah. And I went back to him and said, are you actually saying that it's actually God's will that she died, that my daughter died, that someone who has never done anything nasty to a single person, who's gave her whole life to helping other people, that's God's will? And he went, yeah.
And that is it.
He was a bit more, sort of trying to dodge it a bit, but that's the bottom line.
That's what he was saying.
But is a tenet, I don't know JW's or of you, but it is a very big tenet of the thing to explain it away. It's well, that must have been God's will.
He has a plan.
He's got a plan. He's helping other people learn. How does that work?
Yeah. No, that's
through your suffering.
Could have done without that learning. Not just me. A lot of other people are in that same case. You just go, wow.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting. It's not that I don't blame God for that. That's not what made me not believe in a God. It confirmed it for me.
Yes.
It made me go, there is not a God. There cannot be a God. Doing my master's in neuroscience is telling me that our bodies are really badly designed. So if God designed it, he did a really bad job. So it wasn't...
Also with current stuff happening, do look at Gaza and Israel, and if they're his people, well, how dare they do that, and why isn't he intervening, and all of this. I mean, this...
Yeah. So we're getting lots of confirmation.
It sort of confirms the non-existence of God, doesn't it? Because everything that's happening and has happened at, an individual level and at a global level, none of it points to the presence of a God, or a good God at least.
And it explained it for me. You know how, when you do leave and you've got all this like, oh my goodness, but oh dear, that's a lot to take in, and oh my goodness, I'm going to have to think. It also did explain a lot of stuff to me that, that makes sense now.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's remarkable.
Oh, I'm so sorry that you've been through all of that, and I'm so sorry for the loss of your beautiful daughter.
Thank you. Yeah.
She packed a lot in her life.
Sounds like she did.
She did amazing stuff and really did a lot in that. And, it's a burden you carry. You do get used to carrying it. Doesn't say it gets any lighter.
No. The feeling I get from listening to the both of you speak about stuff is that you have a balance between grieving and celebrating her life. Because you have frequently mentioned the good things that happened.
Yeah, and just, thankfully, an amazing amount of memories and really good memories. And she had really good people around her and that. And I think that was the hardest thing when she had her funeral, when she first died up in Brisbane. It was her last 3 years of life. It was like her whole life was denied her. And it was like, we can make some interesting research, shall we say. Yeah.
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 So
interesting.
Two from here for both of you.
So we're coming back at the end of the year. So we've decided. So Annie's finishing. She got her last prac in social work.
Right.
Next 15 weeks. Then she's done.
Exciting.
So pleased, so amazed with what she's done.
Huge.
I think we're both coming back. Really want to explore being able to help people coming out of religion from a psychological point of view.
Yay.
Absolutely. I think it's so. I think it's so crazy. Went into psychology to help a group of people, and then I'm going to help. I really want to help people come out because I know what I know what it's like. I understand what the expectations, the shame, the guilt, all of that sort of stuff. Alex is here. She's got a lovely partner.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
She's, amazing kid. Doesn't believe in herself yet. And if she ever watches this, she'll just roll her eyes and go,
You don't know what you're talking about.
But she doesn't. She's such an
Don't send
amazing,
us.
she is an amazingly intelligent kid, but just doesn't believe in herself. And she's really struggling with Steph because Steph was big sister. Like, I remember, I tell this story all the time. We're driving to school one day and Alex is in the back because she was never allowed to sit in the front, poor kid. And she goes, "Hey, Steph, what's first period?" She was in like year 7 or 8. And Steph goes, "Oh, it's English." And she goes, "Oh, cool. What's next?" "Science." And I looked at Steph and I went, "You've memorised your sister's timetable?" "Yeah, of course I have. And I remember all my friends as well."
That's impressive.
Alex would be at a bus stop, when Steph was in Sydney 2 years later. "Hey, Alex, Steph, I'm on my way to UWA. I'm at the Barrett Street. What bus do I get?" And Steph would go, "You get the 38.
Seriously, honestly, we went through Europe like that. We just ended up just all following Steph. Like we would all just trot after her. She's got this
Amazing person to have around.
brain with maps.
She would, 3 or 4 levels of subways, and she would get out of the train and go, "We're going this way." And I'm going, I didn't know which
we didn't know where we were.
And
We just followed.
And there was one time we were so excited in Stuttgart. We came up to the top and we had a really close friend of ours, Ed, who's a Maori, and he just sort of tagged along. He was a family friend, and we come to the top of this plaza in Stuttgart, and Steph goes, okay, for those listening, she's looking around.
Yeah.
And Ed's going, yes, she doesn't know where we are. and then she goes, "Oh, this way."
But we're really excited to come back to Perth, actually, in a very different role in one sense, as in not as a Christadelphian and not as part of a group, but able to pursue all of our other friendships. And
And we've got some beautiful friends.
we have amazing friends, amazing friends. And I'd love to be part of you guys,
I was just about to say, we are super thrilled to welcome you into the RFR Perth community. I was about to say earlier in your interview, I kept the joke for now. So you were saying how in Adelaide there was in the Christadelphian community, there was a local sort of leadership where it's like that was...
We used to call it paid Naram, which was Abraham's in the land, and he sent his servant back to get a wife for his back to paid Naram, which is the mecca of.
Right.
I used to call Adelaide paid Naram.
I'm just saying it now for all the listeners. Perth is that. Is the one and only true RFR community in Australia.
Okay.
Can I say that RFR has been a big part of my healing as well, unbeknownst probably to you. So I learned about RFR when I listened to The Line and The Thinking Atheist and the Atheist Experience, and they talk about that and offer up the services a lot. And I've listened to the person who started it, like Daryl, and really love his ethos and why. And the amount of people that have been helped through this is incredible, and it helped me.
That's
to hear.
Thank you. It's wonderful to hear that the efforts being made by RFR are benefiting people. So we're super thrilled and excited that you're coming to Perth, and we just welcome you with open arms into our local Perth community. We do lots of fun things here. Aside from just our monthly meetings, we sometimes have movie nights and dinner.
Can't go to the pictures.
No, we have friends called the Pitchers.
Someone's surname is Movie. So we do a lot of various activities. And given how conscientious you both are, I'm just like, we just need to get out of your way when you arrive here. And, I'm sure you'll just organize. Just don't start a school. Okay?
No,
We're not ready for that yet.
School, sorry.
We could have pizza, hopefully at your house sometime.
You're just inviting yourself for dinner.
Yeah, if I have to bring the pizza. So we're very thrilled to have you. And Travis, you've volunteered and you've joined the Secular Therapy Project.
Absolutely.
And Annie, you've applied to volunteer, so we're very excited to have you around.
Might not let her in though.
You never know.
You might have to speak to the person who does the interview.
Have a quiet word in there.
By the way, for our listeners, that's me. Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your story. I think we've both been enlightened and really enjoyed listening to your story, and it's been a pleasure and a privilege to be here with you and to listen to that.
Well, thanks for inviting and listening. It's been lovely. I feel like we've known you for 100 years.
Yeah, it feels like that. It's been really lovely. So thank you so much. I hope it's been okay for both of you to share your stories.
Totally cathartic.
Okay.
No, it's good, and I find the more we do talk about it, as we said in the break, my habit is to minimalise the stuff that has gone on in my life, and just to downplay it and go, well, that's fine, we'll just get through.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's nice to pause and just go, okay, maybe that was a bit more significant than what we actually give it credence. And I think that's a nice thing to do every now and then. You don't want to wallow in self-pity, but you go, okay, yeah.
I love that reflection because many of us come from backgrounds that do minimize or dismiss things that are a big deal. And so I guess that's a good note to close on, dear listeners, is it's okay for some things to be a big deal.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because they are. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us today for RFR Stories Australia. We hope you enjoyed the program. We'd like to let you know about a number of resources that Recovering from Religion has to support you through your journey. On our website, recoveringfromreligion.org, you'll find 1. A resources tab, which contains an entire library of resources and links covering a wide range of relevant topics. 2. Other online media, including a blog, other podcasts, and RFRX talks. 3. A helpline that is available 24/7, both through phone call or live chat, where you can talk with someone supportive in real time in a time of crisis, or if you simply want to connect with someone who will understand with empathy. 4. Support groups, which run both online and in person in certain locations around the world. And 5. A directory of therapists who have been vetted and offer only therapeutic services using secular methods. Thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see you next time.